with that introduction, it is my pleasure to welcome everybody to March 20th, 2018. It is 12:15 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time, and I am your host, Arvin Elleron. Welcome everybody to episode 18, day 18, I should say, of Adventures in Middle-earth Wilderland Adventures, episode 3, Kinstrife and Dark Tidings. That is a mouthful, but we got through it. Hello everyone, I hope everyone's doing well. Welcome Arvinauts, and I hope you guys are looking forward to an awesome stream today, as I am. Before we get into the stream, a couple of reminders about ways to support the stream. If you haven't already done so, please follow the channel. Please retweet the stream as well, as Echo was nice enough to place. !CTT, so you can retweet the stream to all and sundry. Let's spread the word about the show. If you haven't already done so, please consider as well checking out the Discord channel, !ArvCord, which continues to grow by leaps and bounds, and where you can hang out with the Arvinauts in between streams. We've also, of course, got the YouTube channel where you can check out past broadcasts of the stream, including past broadcasts of this adventure. That is !ArvTube. If you want to support the channel in a financial sense, which is lovely, you can check out the shop, which is !ArvShop. Right now, you can get Infinity and Beyond merchandise there, and of course, Infinity and Beyond is my flagship D&D campaign, but we're going to be expanding that to other sorts of D&D stuff over the next few weeks. So we're going to be doing other things as well, so you will see other possible shirts and, goodies and things like that you'll be able to pick up. So please consider doing that as well. That is always a big help. Also a big help, of course, is supporting the Patreon. We are currently sitting $554 right now. We are closing in on 600. At 600, we will have a second Talisman tournament, which is sort of self-evidently awesome. But even if we're able to hold this amount through April 1st, we will get a second Our Vocalist cast. We will also get, which is my voiceover team, we will also get, thank you for the host, by the way, everybody, Love Lust and Eric Vulgaris and everyone else. We will also, in addition to that, get a third Arvinaut Idol contest. So Arvinaut Idol 3 will come into play, and that is going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to that. So you can get all those cool things. You can also get cool stuff for yourself, critiques of your writing. You can get epic character backgrounds written about you, epic poems written about you. You can get a copy of one of my band's albums, etc., etc. All that stuff awaits if you support the Patreon. And then, of course, last but certainly not least, is the sub system. You can sub to the channel by hitting the sub button right above the window right there. We are currently sitting at around 50 subs, so the more of those subs that we get, the better it also is for the channel. It supplements the channel and what we try to do here, but it also makes it possible for you to be able to spread the word by using that Get Hyped, that Arvin hyped thing that you see nonstop using over there. So please consider supporting the channel if you can. That is always, it's never required, but it's always appreciated, and it's been lovely to see all of you wonderful people jumping on board and helping with that. Today we've got Adventures in Middle-earth Wilderland Adventures. Later on today, now I do want to make one scheduling note. Later on today, we will be continuing the D&D with GOG streams, as on my Pen and Pixel show over at the GOG Comms Twitch channel, as I'm going to be playing Storm King's Thunder, continuing with my now full party of Tasty Chai, who's our newest player, Pyron Jade, Darksaber 2K, and Screaming Joypad. They are going to be playing Storm King's Thunder, which has been a really fun adventure as well. Please note that that is going to be starting at 5 p.m. Eastern instead of 4, and the reason is because of the stupid daylight savings time. However, as of next week, Europe will have also gotten on board this ridiculous daylight savings train, and then everyone will be on board, and then we'll be back to our normal 4 to 7 time. But at least today, it's 5 to 8, so be aware that it will be starting an hour later than normal. Otherwise, though, everything is full speed ahead for that. On Friday, we have got Esper Genesis, people. Those of you who were asking me, is Esper Genesis done? No, of course it's not done. But we're going to be doing it usually 2 days a month. But this month we couldn't do that because of an incredible scheduling just conflicts with everybody. But we are going to have our Esper Genesis crew with Johnny Pittman, also known as Video Store Cowboy, Louise Moore, also known as Accidental Legend, Kat Rambo, who needs no other, also known as, and Zach Clay from the Our Vocalists. All 4 of those folks will be joining me for my science fiction space opera, which is of course officially sponsored by Alligator Alley Entertainment. Really excited about that. We did character creation and a little bit of playing last time. This session is going to be all playing. So Esper Genesis is happening on Friday. It's going to be awesome. And then last but certainly not least, this coming Saturday, we have the second session of D&D Infinity and Beyond. And oh man, is there stuff going down in that campaign for those of you who have been watching. So as the Rise of Tiamat heads towards, pretty much is heading into the home stretch now. So that's been awesome too. And you can check that out, of course, on Saturday. Next week, by the way, we will have the chat show chosen game of the month in this slot on Tuesday, and then I'll be finishing up with Divinity Original Sin 2. Over the weekend, I will be in Seattle, so a week from this weekend, I will be in Seattle, and I will be have at least one stream there, which will be the Our Vocalist stream. So we've got a lot of stuff going as we have these things happening. So that's the deal with that. And yeah, sorry for all the announcements, but I did want to make sure that I got a lot of stuff out there. And that leads us back to today. Adventures of Middle-earth Wilderland Adventures, which is officially sponsored, of course, by Cubicle 7, which is really, really awesome. All right, with that said, I am now going to unmute myself as I usually do, so the fine people know that they are ready to go, and I can tell they're all excited. And then I'm going to unmute, I'm going to unmute them, and now I'm going to head over there. Dun, 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 dun. There we go. There are all the peoples. Look at that wonderful crew. Missed everybody from last week. It was good to see everybody here. We are back with bells on. Well, I don't know if that's true. That term, I don't know. I've never actually. Okay, see. All right. I was just about to say nobody ever does that, but of course, Amal had my back. Okay. Let me start as I always do with the gentleman right below me, and that, of course, is Mr. Trendane Sparks. Hello, Trendane. How are you, sir? How's life? Are you semi-awake today? Or
See, while you were doing your intro,
yes,
as I was telling these fine people here, I was fine up until about 3 minutes ago. And now it's like I just because it's like I woke up around maybe 10 hours ago, I think.
Okay.
Well, whatever 11:30 would be my time, which that would be 11 hours ago, 10 hours ago.
Okay.
And so I've been awake all night after just like an hour nap before that. So it's like, but I think it's going to be like a method acting thing because Tawny's going to be in exactly the same situation.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just let it flow.
We got some people pushing the limits of their endurance today. It's going to be good stuff. Yeah, I like it. I feel the method sort of flowing through you. However, exactly. I was going to say, as good as you are, I don't believe you fell asleep that fast.
Well, no, my eyes were open.
That's fine then. So I just want to make one comment about all this, which is that your career at the moment, sir, is starting to blow up. You've got like 2 or 3 things you should mention. No, I mean in a good way. The way the kids use it, man. Get with the program.
I haven't been a kid in so long.
So tell us what you got on the docket, and tell us who you're playing today. What is the big project that you got at the moment?
Well, I'm waiting to hear back from the publishers, but I have finished recording the BattleTech audiobook. Okay. And so once they give me the feedback and corrections and whatever else needs to be done, I can finish that. And please, I hope we can get it done in time because I really want to see a cross promotion with the release of the BattleTech game from Harebrained Schemes, which I did voiceover.
I was just going to say, speaking of that, there may or may not be the case that I may or may not be seeing a preview build of this and may or may not be featuring it on perhaps a certain channel that I stream on. We'll see.
It's like 11 days away.
Yes. Yeah, I'll go nag John about that. It's funny that one of the people responsible for this, I know it's not him, but we can nag him to nag the other people, is a person that Trent and I both play with. So everybody knows each other and they all play D&D. But anyway, I'm really excited, man, to hear that. I think it's
was there a third thing? You said I had 3 things to talk
about. Yeah, well, I think there's a certain Beyond Skyrim thing that you've been talking about, right?
Well, no, I just mentioned.
Oh, well, then I don't have anything else.
Time. Well, no. The most recent thing for the Escape Pod.
Oh, right.
Podcast, which was last Thursday that got published, which is myself and Divya Breed co-narrating. The thing is where she reads the female parts and I read the male part. And then I've just signed a contract to do another one with them.
Nice.
Coming up. I really should record that. Well, I've got like 2 weeks before I have to have it done, but I want to get it done like soon because I don't like having things hanging over my head.
Who are you playing today, sir?
Tawny.
Who is?
He's a very tired. He was already tired. Bjorning pacifist and healer who was desperately looking for Reed Mace. which when powdered and smoked, not snorted, will allow you to, basically it's cocaine, and you can go for 3 days without sleep. Just, but we didn't find any. So
maybe we'll find some on the way.
Oh.
Yep, one can only hope. I am looking forward to seeing how these things happen. We'll talk a little bit about exhaustion and how that's going to come.
I was going to say, on the plus side, these guys, the douches that are going to be running up behind us, they're going to be suffering from exhaustion too. So I'm not going to be sharing any of my read mace with them, even though I told them what it actually does. They don't compare it. So meh.
Moving right along down the line, someone who is used to IRL to exhaustion, it seems to me, at times, and that of course is our good friend Will from Encounter Roleplay. What's up, Will? How you doing, man? How's life and stuff?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm fresh out of shower, got a coffee. I'm feeling alive and well. It might just be me comparing myself to Tren.
Fair enough.
Yeah, no, I'm good. Just hanging out. Yeah, I've got kind of chill for Tuesday today. Actually, usually have a second show on today, but I've taken the day off other than this one, so gonna relax,
good,
some time off, and chill out a bit because I've been working way too hard recently. So I'm gonna take a little break and just play in Lord of the Rings, which is basically what I want to do in my life all the time. Anyway.
Yes, I was just gonna say, pretty much. Speaking of that, who are you playing?
Yes, I'll be playing Rolbar Staunton, the Dunedain Ranger, who is separated from the rest of the party at the moment.
Yes.
Hopefully he can find his way back to them, and hopefully they can. I'm stressed already. I don't even want to think about everything that I have to do.
We're all going 4 different directions.
I was going to say, it's get ready for 4 individual sessions. It's going to be, gonna be interesting.
Yeah, the Indiana Jones marks across the map. Just go.
Yep. Dot, 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 dot. Yeah.
No. Like in the Emperor's New Groove, where they are going all
in
directions.
circles. Yeah. That's right. That's right. I'm looking forward to it. It should be fun times. I'm glad to have Will back with us today. Moving right on down the line, another person that I'm glad to see is back with us and looking hale and hearty and with a hat on, and as always. And of course, that is Terry Tunes. Hello, Terry.
Hi.
How are you? How's life?
Yeah, doing good so far. Been doing a bit of traveling. Been to a lot of concerts and stuff. But yeah, nothing exciting particularly happening. Aside from conventions coming up and stuff like that. I do want to say sorry for bailing out last time. I was not feeling particularly well. That on top of me not being aware that you guys changed time. And I was basically being an hour late anyway. So I was literally sitting in my bathtub being like, I can relax for another hour. And then my phone goes off. It's like, right.
Mm-hmm,
you stole 1 hour from me.
Yep.
So yeah, but no. But now I'm here. Hi.
And you are playing?
Yes, I am playing Inge, daughter of Ida. She is a dwarf, a wanderer, stonemason, and she has a cutesy pony sidekick named Lilleman. And currently she is on a quest to save Brunhild's foster brother / boyfriend.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, there's some big connections there, which I'm excited to see. Yeah, I again
projecting like a boss.
Yeah, that's funny. Yes. That's been actually a lot of fun to see you guys sort of your individual interactions with Odoric. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I will say that as Trending and I often find ourselves forced to do, we apologize yet again for America's stupidity in setting this up. It's a very common process. We're actually going to have index cards laminated that just say we're really sorry for the US and just do that over and over again, and that'll be great. We're trying to change it. At least my state's rational. So but pleasure to have Terry with us as always. And moving right on down the line, we have last but certainly not least, of course, Amal Elmatar. Hello, Amal. How are you?
I'm great, thanks.
And how is and I mean, if I ask you what's going on, there's one big thing actually I just saw announced again on Twitter. So do you want to mention it for people who might have missed it?
Yeah. So I'm going to be one of the guests of honor at PenguaCon coming up in the first weekend of May in Detroit-ish. and I'm really excited about it. I'm part of the Writing Excuses guest of honoriness, so I feel like it's not specifically about me. It's about the fact that I was extremely delighted to be part of Writing Excuses for this current year of podcasting. Writing Excuses, if you don't know, is a really fantastic podcast that is Mary Robinette Kowal, Brandon Sanderson, Howard Taylor, and Dan Wells is the core cast, and it's just a 15 minutes long, most of the time, podcast about writing craft and stuff. So it's just great, and it was tremendous fun to do. And the episodes that I'm guest appearing in are every, I think, third week of the month. There's one episode every week. So the third week is one that will usually have me and Maurice Broaddus as guests of honor in them. Nice. So yeah, I'll be, I guess, at PenguCon with Mary Robinette Kowal and Marianne Mohanraj, and I'm really excited about it. I've never been to PenguCon before, so if you are in or around Detroit, then by all means come and say hello, because it would be awesome to see you.
Yeah, that's awesome. And love me some Maurice, by the way. Maurice Broaddus is really good people. So yeah, he's a really cool dude. Yeah, that's awesome. And obviously I won't make Amal go through all her stuff, but of course also is now one of the big shots at the New York Times, right there with, Maggie Haberman and all those. Maybe a considerably better person. I mean, I didn't mean to say that. What's that? Anyway, no, but I'm very, very pleased to see all the great things that are going on with you, Amal. That is awesome. Who are you playing in this game, speaking of awesome things?
I am playing a female woodsman of Rosgobel called The River, and she is a warden, aka a fighty bard, and she has a wonderful hound of Mirkwood who accompanies her everywhere named Stone.
Yes. I really love the idea that there's the separate, at some point there's clearly going to be like a spin-off or a /fan art moment of just Stone and Lilimon, just like the two of them like palling around.
I'm here for it.
This is definitely got to happen.
I do need to do that, I guess.
Yeah.
I can take a hint when I see one.
No. You. He said quietly that you have something else that you must engage in first. But yes, it'll be interesting to see. I actually did get, someone sent me fan art of me dungeon mastering the other day, which is the first time that I've ever had fan art done of me. And it's basically just me looking over this screen with my hat and the glasses and the beard. And it was very cool. And it's just sort of like this, wow, I've reached the stage. It only took me to 45 to get fan art done of me. It was really funny. I'm very,
When did you get that?
I was grateful. I got it after my last session on Saturday. So somebody sent it to me.
I've drawn you before that.
You have, but I didn't think of that as fan art. I thought of that as like, I don't know, friend art. Well, it's friend art. We're friends, we're friends. Like it was a different thing. But anyway, it's really cool. So I am very glad to be with all these people. As I say, I find myself in a very, I just got confirmed that I'm going to be doing several workshops at both Origins and Gen Con for writers and game mastering and the sort of connections between those things. People who write who want to game master and the reverse. And I find myself in a very weird position of these books that in some ways, not totally hyperbolically, saved my life, or at least a portion of them when I was younger. And these things that really fired my imagination and set me on a path and gave me an identity and all these kinds of things. And this game that I love so much of Dungeons & Dragons, it's very odd to get to the other side of that in some ways as an adult and have these things be something that I can do with friends and have audiences want to be part of. That is an amazing experience for me. So it is, for all of the problems the world has, there are some very good things about it too. So I am glad to have these wonderful people with me. And with that said, let us move on to the adventure itself, because we have some things to talk about, people. Last session.
One other quick thing.
Yes.
Happy first day of spring, everybody.
Happy first day of spring. Yeah, which starting tonight, winter storm warning, a foot to a foot and a half of snow. That's spring's like, welcome. Like, oh God.
Yeah, it's so beautifully sunny in Ottawa today. I woke up this morning and I looked out the window and I was like, I'm gonna check my weather app to see how warm it is outside, and saw that it is minus 10 degrees Celsius, which feels like minus 17. For those of you in Fahrenheit, I think that's somewhere between 3 degrees Fahrenheit and like minus 8 or something. So just
sounds terrifying.
So springful.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's totally, it was just good lord. Anyway, it'll be interesting to see how it all goes down. It's funny too, because much of the winter was fine, and then the last month, winter's like, oh crap, here's snow. It's like I forgot that it needed to do this now. So
yeah, right. I forgot to do the thing.
I forgot to do the snow. So, but yes, happy spring to everyone. So, speaking of springtime, believe it or not, we're actually in the middle of this adventure, which is itself supposedly happening in spring, although it may not feel this way to our adventurers. These folks have been hot on the trail of initially a fugitive, Odoric. They didn't know it was Odoric at the time. They knew only that someone had escaped when he was being brought back for judgment. Maravich, who was essentially Bjorn's right-hand man, kind of his attorney general, if there was one who was competent and not corrupt, who was with Bjorn, and Maravich was killed by an ambush of orcs, and the prisoner that he had been escorting escaped. The party tracked that person down to Stonyford, where they discovered that all was not as it had seemed. Odoric had been brought to justice because of his alleged murder of Rathvik, this foreigner from who had moved into the village to live there, and yet, as the party discovered, it was possible, A, that Odoric wasn't even responsible for the crime, and B, even if he had been, that maybe it wasn't that much of a crime because Rathvik was kind of not a good guy, as it turned out. And so the party had some very mixed emotions, including some great moments between Robar Tonybear and also, of course, Inga and the river. Inga with some impressive character reveals in the middle of that discussion as well. Once the party left, then, they were still pursuing Odoric, but with a different purpose, to speak to him and discover what it was that he had been thinking and essentially say, you got to come to justice, but maybe we can speak on your behalf. What they found, however, was a little more than the party had bargained for, because when they tracked him down within this grove of woods that you can see right to the south of the map, they discovered that he had either fallen in with or been kidnapped by, depending on who you spoke to, this group of ill-favored, grim-faced men, this group of bandits led by a would-be king whose name is Valter. Their thought was that Valter was going to be this guy who would rise up and take control of his men. He has a certain kind of charisma, and there were about 50 to 60 bandits, somewhere in that number, that were actually there. These bandits, the party discovered, actually planned to ambush the Bjornings, and were trying to convince Odoric to be someone who would help them in this quest, first of all by taking over Stonyford, and second of all by ambushing Bjorn himself. Obviously, the destruction of Bjorn and the Bjornings, if it were successful, would be a horrific blow to the forces of good, and would be a serious blow to civilization in this area, and of course, from Tinybear's point of view, would be a serious blow to his own existence, insofar as the Bjornings are his people. However, what they discovered was that they had a chance to escape this fate, because they managed to convince Odoric, first of all, of their good intentions, and Odoric said that he would essentially lie, bluff, and try to convince the bandits to follow his own path to the north, up to where the Bjornings are going to be, in a place called, oh god, as I've completely forgotten.
Gloomy Hills.
No, is it?
Or the gloomy, the
Ford,
Gloomy
isn't it? That's the thing. Was it
Ford.
Gloomy
Oh,
Ford?
sorry.
Gloomy Ford.
Gloomy
Yeah, yeah.
Ford, that's
Gloomy
right.
Ford. I'm like, what Ford? Yes.
No. Gloomy Fold?
Gloomy
No.
Folds.
Fold.
Gloomy
Oh.
Fold? No,
I think
thought
it was the
Gloomy...
fold.
Wait a second, because I have it written as Gloomy
Because
Ford.
a ford would be
Something
by the
like that.
river, but a
Down.
fold is in the valley.
Yes, I
like,
wrote it wrong. God damn it.
I'm pretty sure it's a fold. I think I have.
Gloomy Fold. It is Fold. Yeah, you're right. It's Gloomy Fold. Gloomy Fold, which is clearly definitely what I said immediately. Gloomy Fold, where the Odoric would convince the bandits to go through. The thing is that the Gloomy Fold is also a place which would be suitable for ambush of this force of bandits and could actually devastate them if, and here's the big if, the party can outrace them. The party has got to get back up to Bjorn's house and basically explain to the Bjornings what is happening and assemble enough of a force to challenge these bandits before the bandits can get there. And the problem, as Trendane suggested during his player introduction, is that Tani and the rest of the crew are very, very tired. They have not had a chance to rest. They haven't had a long rest. They haven't had a short rest, let alone a long rest. So they are in a bad state in terms of their overall level of rest. And it does occur to me, I am in the process of reading through The Hobbit. Oh God, was this my 40th, 50th time or something? And I'm reading it through with my daughter, who's already heard it, but I'm now reading it to my less than 2-year-old son, who doesn't totally get it, but he actually is pretty cute because it'll be right before bed, so he'll actually come up on the bed. He has no idea what I'm saying, I don't think, but he'll like lean against me as I read, which is really sweet because my kids are the best. Anyway.
So cute.
They're the best. So they, but anyway, I just got done with the out of the frying pan into the fire. They literally are at Bjorn's house in The Hobbit, and the sequence of the length of time that people travel and the exhaustion of these characters is something that I'm continuing to note more and more. This is just a feature of a lot of Tolkien's writing, is that the characters have these forced marches and get exhausted. Well, that's what our party faces, because if they're going to somehow outstrip them, they are probably going to have to get there by not resting a whole lot, and as Trending pointed out, they are already tired. Moreover, they also are separated from each other because Robar ended up leaving separately to get out of the camp after setting a little diversion, also known as burn the camp down or try to do something like that. Inga managed to escape that clearing with Lilliman. The river had already snuck out, I think, maybe shortly after Robar, and then Tawny Bear also made it. So essentially, all four of you at the moment are going out different directions from the forest. And so as we begin our adventure, and I'm going to start basically right down the line. I'll start with Tawny first, and then I'll work down. The characters have to try to decide, are they going to go straight up? Are they going to try to find each other? And will they be able to get in time to prevent this ambush? And with that said, I put it up to Tawny Bear. So Tawny, you have made your way out of the clearing, and I'm trying to remember if you went out the southern edge or it was the southern edge, right? So if you're going out the southern edge of that clearing, how do you want to try to make your way to what do you want to do basically out of the southern edge of the clearing?
Well, given what Tawny's thinking, he's in the most screwed position of all of us, because I mean, Robar has the best chance because he's already to the north of the camp and thereby the closest one to Beorn's house.
Right.
Then the bandit guys are in the middle, and then Tawny's on the southern, as far away as he can possibly get from where he needs to go. So his thing, he ultimately, his thought is that the mission, such as it is not that we should all meet up. It's that we've got to get word to these folks. Okay. So Tawny is making for Stonyford.
Okay. All right, so you're going to... Okay, so if you're heading for Stonyford, and by the way, I just placed you folks on the map. I believe that Robar and Tawny are correct, but Inga, I don't remember if you went out to the west or the east. Do you? Of the clearing?
I don't think we decided. Like, basically what I said is that I go wherever, like, water... Like, I assume, like, there's a creek or, like, a pond or something.
Yes.
That she was, like, pretending to, like, to water... Well, she was watering her horse.
So that would be more like this. Okay, so then you'd be more over to the east. River, just so I know, are you more heading out the western side of the clearing?
The way that I had it written down and the way that I was imagining it was that she was at the northeast. But I think it was a similar sort of decision about just leaving through whatever means of egress was possible.
Okay.
But yeah, she only just barely managed to slip away was the other thing.
Yes,
so, yeah.
That's right. And it wouldn't actually have happened if it weren't for the Odoric actually thinking on his feet at the right moment. So, okay. So this more or less is where you guys are placed, I think, is the right spot then. So, okay, Tawny, if you're going to be heading east, then the question is, how are you going to do it? If you're going to head, because you could... The fastest way would be to head straight through the forest, but there is the danger of you're going to be moving slower if the men start trying to find you or whatever, there is that risk. Or you can try to head east into the field area and go north, or you can see the map for yourself. It depends on how you want to do it.
And quick question too. So Tawny said you wanted to go to Stonyford. We're just going to confirm that we all know that they're not going to Stonyford. They're also going to force march to Bjorn's house, right?
That is, from what I remember, that is Odoric's intention. Is to
okay, but we don't know for sure that he's going to manage to do that.
We know that at some point they want to raise Stonyford. We know that.
Okay.
So, it being closer,
right?
If nothing else, it's a way to. If Tawny's thinking is that if these guys are moving up towards Bjorn's house, if he can bring a force from Stonyford up and catch them in a vice in between, perfect. Okay. So at some point, Stonyford needs to be warned anyway.
Okay.
Okay. So in that case, all right. So then, Tawny, are you going? So then the question is,
Heading to the river.
Okay, so heading straight for the river. Okay. All right. So let's have you do that. I'm gonna see what we get around here. Give me the dice roll, please. Okay. All right. I'm going to move your character this way, just for a minute.
Yep.
This is all happening simultaneously, by the way, so even though it looks as if different things are overlapping, they're not actually, because this is just we're dealing with one at a time. So, Tani, as you are heading to the east, towards the river, are you planning to try to get to... Because there is actually... where's my damn mouse pointer? There is actually a path, theoretically, which runs over to the eastern side, but you still have to cross over the river to get to that path, basically, and then head north along the eastern side. So if you're heading directly to the east, then I would say probably about an hour or so, hour and a half into the journey. And this was, by the way, relatively early in the morning, I believe, as the as people were getting ready. So as you are beginning to look, you see no sign of your companions as you are continuing to travel to the east. But as you come closer to the river, you can actually see, not unfortunately your friend the river, the river. You see in front of you two rather large trees, and beyond those trees, you see what looks like a ruined and broken down campfire. It doesn't look like it's occupied at the moment, but it's basically there's these two trees which are almost sort of standing by themselves, kind of oddly, and then between these two trees is this broken down campfire. Beyond it, you can actually see the hills, or I should say the land, beginning to slope down towards what looks like the western bank of the river. And unfortunately, going straight east means that you're at a fairly wide portion of the river, so you'd have to cross over it to get to this island in the middle of the river, and then across again to get to the other side of it. So, but immediately in front of you, about 5 minutes walk perhaps, is this, as I say, broken down, burned out campfire.
There any hint of a wisp of smoke indicating how long ago it might have been?
Make a perception check for me. Let's see if you notice anything.
I have a general question in the meantime. Do any of us have ranged weapons?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Just curious.
Okay, there does not look to be like any smoke here, Tani, and again, now you can't tell for sure until you get right up to it. You're still a few minutes away, but it just from the distance, it looks like this area is sort of blackened and, you know, not... It's been a while since it's been occupied, if you had to guess, but of course you won't know for sure till you get there. You could also avoid it altogether, I guess, if you want.
I'm leaning towards that.
Yeah.
Because given your description of the fact that the trees oddly leaning, I'm thinking it's actually an ant that was peeing on a fire. So I'm gonna skirt around that.
Okay. All right. As you sneak around sort of the southern portion of it, and I need to check. So I think we are now at
right.
How long? I'm sorry.
I said tawny, sneak, right?
Yeah, as well. Skirt loudly, yelling at the fire. I'm going to give you a wide berth. So when is the last time, by the way, that you had any kind of arrest?
I believe it was like at least a day ago. Right.
So...
We lost all our levels of exhaustion when we completed the journey to get to the crossing. So we were reset at that point.
Correct, right. But that I think was that's true. But I think that still was over a day.
Definitely like.
Okay.
I was only thinking sheet wise, but that doesn't.
Yeah, no, for sure.
The last time that we went to sleep.
Yep. No, that's helpful. Yeah. Okay, so what I need you to do then, let's see, Tani, is I need you to make a Constitution saving throw here as you pass the areas. Let's start seeing how this exhaustion is going to work.
So do I have a point of exhaustion or no?
I don't think... Well, the only thing is I thought you might have gotten a point of exhaustion for some reason, but I can't remember why. There was a moment where... I agree, all your exhaustion was reset, but then I thought there was another moment you came across this, but I may be misremembering. So I guess I would say not. Maybe I thought that maybe one of you just did, and maybe you were the one who got affected.
17.
Okay. So you continue to be fine. You do, I mean, you feel the strain in your muscles as you're trying to, move along this way. And of course, you were also, you're a rather large person, even as it is. I mean, you're definitely moving. you got a, Tawny's speed has not always necessarily been Tawny's top trait, but you are definitely pushing yourself. As you arrive at the bank of the river then, so this is about 2 hours or so, roughly speaking, east of the forest, you have heard no sign of pursuit as of yet. You've also caught no sight of your companions. And as you get to the bank of the river, you now see what I previously described. There's a section of the river, and then there's this island in the middle, which seems to be a decent size, actually. And then beyond it, you see another branch, essentially, of the river, path of the river beyond that. And so that you've got to figure out a way to get across that if you're going to go over and then up to the north. Or you could theoretically hug the western side of the river, but that's up to you.
Well, I mean, for me, it depends on the speed and the depth of the water here.
It is fairly fast here. It's not, roaring, but it's fairly fast. Not quite as fast as when you had to cross it farther north next to Stonyford, but it's still fairly fast. And at Stonyford, it was relatively shallow. It doesn't look all that shallow here. You might be able to swim it, but it's going to be not easy. In answer to your question, BizBiz, the money that you see listed under there is actually my Patreon, and it goes to largely support the channel, basically. I have voice actors, of whom Trent is one, that I pay every month for sessions of voice acting. I have a lifetime license to Roll20 that I pay every year based on Patreon money, et cetera, et cetera. So it's going to support the financial situation of the channel. Although there is a charity convention going on in a couple of months to benefit Damon Runyon Cancer Research Foundation, but I'll talk more about that later. So,
also, we were talking about Beyond Skyrim and the mods that we're making, and Alex Katana there in chat is one of our composers.
Oh, very cool.
Thanks.
Oh, nice. Well, welcome, Alex. Composers are always. I'm always glad to have composers around of any kind. So that's awesome. Welcome.
Very, very good. So yeah.
Hey, Fender.
So it looks deep.
Looks deep. I mean, it is. You certainly couldn't wade it, but it doesn't. I mean, again, could you swim it? Yes. Although you're sort of like your body's like, really.
Yeah. Well,
but
what's my other option at this point? Tawny's mind is on the mission, so he's gonna have to push and swim it.
Okay.
Because he doesn't have a boat.
Thank you for your follow, Alex. All right. Okay, so then you get into the water. I'm going to need you to make, if you've got athletics, I'll take that. If you have, I don't even think we have swimming, but if you have, otherwise I'll just take a straight strength check as you struggle across the water, which is relatively fast. Also very, occasionally your foot does touch down on the bottom, but there are these worn smooth stones, which are, if you've ever walked on a riverbed, they often can be very slippery. I have had the experience myself of slipping on said rocks, in fact.
Oh yes, so have I.
Thin scrim of moss that always forms.
Yep.
And I also dove face first into one of them because I didn't realize how shallow the water was. But
I actually fell into one when I was a kid. There was a place near us called, of all things, Satan's Kingdom, where Olympic kayakers used to train. And so this group, they had a tubing thing, and I went down at the age of 7, which was not a good idea, and I ended up actually slipping, and I didn't drown, but it was not a pleasant experience. So it was not fun.
So, speaking of drowning, watch this.
Yes.
No.
8.
Yeah. So you were like trying to swim across. The current is pulling you. And that combined with the sort of exhaustion you already feel, you're sort of like reaching up, and you see yourself, or feel yourself, I should say, kind of drifting downstream despite your best efforts. You see if you can, let's see, I'm trying to think how to make that happen right there. Okay, good. So go ahead and make another one of those. Let's see how far down you go before you're able to catch yourself.
Let's see, how far? Okay, I'm going to be off the
Drink
map.
all the water before it swallows you. Don't really think that's an option, Toby, but it's...
Oh.
Natural 20.
Wow, I saw the 2 first, and I was like, oh, God.
I did too. That was the first thing I logged on.
I was like, I know you like failure, but this might not be a good time to have failure.
Yeah,
so.
I know. failure. It's just really fun when.
So as you feel yourself being sort of pulled downstream, you see the island sort of beginning to distance away from you. You have this moment where you think of your home, Tawny. You think of the place that you left. You think of the bees outside. You think of the twice-baked honey cakes. You think even of Bjorn and his strength and his own rough wisdom. And it occurs to you that you cannot let yourself be swept away. You just can't. And so your muscles tighten. You feel this sort of surging power within you as you begin to paddle again, just powerfully straight, and finally pull yourself up gasping onto the middle island of the bank, the very southern tip. In fact, if there weren't some reeds there that you were able to kind of grab onto, you might have been swept away. This was quite a feat.
Like reed mace reeds?
No, I wish. No. These are just.
I wish.
Yeah, I know you wish. No, these are just reeds. I do need to make another Constitution saving throw, though. This did not do any favors for you in terms of exhaustion.
I'm sure it didn't. See?
Yeah. Although you did a heroic thing, it did cost you. I need you to add a level of exhaustion, which I think puts you at just 1 at the moment.
Just 1.
Sorry, 1 second. Give me 1 second, chat. Sorry, guys.
So now, I don't know if chat can hear us, because I know that they muted him, but I don't know if he muted us, so... Wait, dude.
Can you hear us? Are we talking into the void?
Yes, they can hear us. Yes,
Okay.
I unmuted the stream to make sure I get it. I was like, oh God.
Oh god.
So let's
Kind of
see.
scat. They want to do a small improv scene?
Calling out, a bar!
What do I hear? I hear something on the wind.
And then
Some tidings.
somebody's like, you're gonna call the river? It's all around me!
No.
The other one. The other the river. Oh.
I don't know how feasible this is, but I am percolating a thought of just
Sorry about that.
It's
Oh,
okay.
never mind.
Okay, sorry about that. Was that true? You could hear me? I hope you couldn't hear me. All right, good.
No.
I was like, what?
We know you were talking about us. It's fine.
Yeah, I was just like, she was like, who are these people? I'm like, they're friends of mine. She's like, really? These friends? No, that was not at all the case. Okay, so, all right, so you have got a level of exhaustion, Tawny. As you pull yourself up, kind of, roll over, like, look over, you can see that the other side of the bank, the eastern side, seems just as far away as the western side did. So you have a decision that you got to make. You obviously could try to rest a little bit, but we know what the situation is with time. So it depends on how you want to handle this.
He doesn't think he can wait.
Okay.
And he honestly thinks that if he tries to rest, he's going to fall asleep.
Okay. So in that
Do you want to
case,
investigate those reeds for some reed mace while you're there?
Well, that's kind of why I asked.
Oh,
oh, okay.
When I asked, is it
You can actually, if you wish, you can do an investigation and see if you can find any of that reed mace. Sure.
okay.
Definitely the reeds on the edge were not there. This island though is relatively barren. I mean, there's not a lot. It's mostly just grasses and things like that. But
Oh, I'm on the island.
yeah,
The southern tip of the island.
the southern tip of the island.
Which means there's more swimming in my future. Okay.
Oh yeah,
I'll-
that's what I was talking about.
I'll check around real quick and see if there's any reed mace.
Okay, go ahead and make an investigation check.
17.
It doesn't look like it. It looks as if most of the stuff that's here is mostly new growth grass. Possibly the dirt here is not particularly... The roots may not be very deep here, and maybe because of the rushing of the water, it's just difficult for anything to really get purchase, and grow at a higher level, but there's not a lot that you see on this side. You do see a lot of reeds and grasses and so forth on the eastern bank, and maybe as you head north you might be able to find something, but not on the island, though.
All right. Let us continue on.
Okay. So I need you to make another check for me then. Again, athletics would work, or strength as your you're heading over to the east here.
4.
Okay. So again, you struggle off into the bank. The again, the toll of the journey is weighing heavily upon you. It is very difficult, and you find yourself slipping again down to the south. So let me place myself here. So you're a little farther, or you're sort of heading, you're kind of drifting basically southeast, which is exactly not what you want to be doing.
Yeah.
So go ahead and make another athletics check. Let's see if you're able to catch yourself on the other side.
8.
Yeah, not really.
Like I said, I'm going off the map.
Yep. You're also, this area that you're heading to the south is not a great area on top of it. Okay. Let's see on this stuff. Okay, go ahead and make another one. Basically, each time you're losing ground here, so...
Natural.
Oh, there we go. So you just have to be like, oh. All right, so...
Oh, wait, right, I should grab a
I really do need to do this. Okay. So again, that feeling of that haunting image of the possibility of your village, your house, your land being burned to the ground grabs you, and you, again, sort of adrenaline surges through
my
you.
dead body.
Yep, and you pull yourself now onto the eastern bank. I do need to have you make another Constitution saving throw as you finally get over there.
Okay. Well,
that's enough. You're able to. You do not get another level of exhaustion, but you sort of
what a
hands and
bracing
feet,
swim.
Yeah, that was great. Everything about that sucked. You guessed that you
fresh snow melt in there.
you probably ended up losing maybe another 45 minutes to an hour heading south, unfortunately. But at least you're now on the eastern side of the bank, and so I assume now you're basically jumping up and heading straight north, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you book it along the way, and we're going to come back to Tawny Bear in a little bit.
Yep.
Next I'm going to jump to is Robar. Before I do that, though, Echo Alpha has provided a streamer introduction and got it to us a little late. I know we need to do those. So here we go. Let's see. And I'm going to warn you, Echo, I've got to go through this a little faster, only because I want to make sure that we keep going with the adventure. So, the road goes ever, ever on, down from the dungeon where it began. Oh, this is why you were asking me about the Hobbit. The road goes ever, ever on, as I recall, the guy's vibrato. Dungeon it began. Now far ahead the road is gone, into the yellow wood and beyond, and we shall follow, for the adventures of Middle-earth continues. The road has been long of treacherous abuse and battle, yet what fate and destiny is for the four? Only he who is the storyteller who wields the divinity, none other than Arvin Elrond. But as he may yet hold their destiny, it is the four souls who are the true heroes of this adventure. True. 4 fine people, each their way. Yet a renewal is brought upon us, for soon many shall be greeted by an Easter which brings joy and goodwill. To children, lots of eggs filled with goodies. To adults, joy and gatherings. Upon all of planet Earth, we wish a happy Easter of all ethnicities and religions. Ye ponder upon whom of this adventure it is we shall follow. Nice. Over grass, over stone, over snow by winter sown. Kinstrife and dark tidings. None other than Tawny Bear, the Bjorning, of whom nobody knows which shape he is most content with. Apparently waterlogged is the current shape. Robar Staunton, one of the Dunedain, who moonlights as a ranger. That's kind of a funny thought. when I'm not working down at the theater, within the woods of Middle-earth. And now all alone and lost like a little cub, waiting to come home to the party. Inga, daughter of Ida, dwarf wanderer and stonemason with a cutesy pony sidekick named Lillimon, and not somebody one wishes to be on the bad side of either. That's true. And yet what completed this party was the river. The female woodsman from Roskabel of Yet brings forth a river of good songs and cheer to the party. As I desire to make our good sir, the storyteller, speak my fairy tales of streamer introductions, I must give away to the party, to all a happy Easter. May we cherish this time, spending time with family and friends. I apologize for interrupting the adventure, but I hope this will boost all to feel inspired and inspire the party should the need arise. To close up this tale of an introduction, I will inspire everybody with this. What we do for ourselves dies with us. What we do for ourselves and the world remains and is immortal. As always, Echo, wonderfully done. Thank you, sir, very, very much. Much love.
So nice.
Thank you. Very good stuff, as always. Thanks, Echo. Okay, so Tawny is heading to the north. Let us jump on to Robar. Robar, you slipped out basically to the northwest. You've got the same sort of situation in front of you. What do you want to do?
So we said that did we say that we'd meet up somewhere in particular?
We didn't.
I don't think we did we?
We just said we agreed we were going to head north, and I think we just kind of trusted that we would find each other. We have a bond, okay? We have
Yeah.
an unshakable bond. We're going to find each other through
In a
that.
world with no way to communicate except via... Yeah, okay.
In a world without cell phones.
In a world with no cell phones, one ranger must find... Yeah, okay. Let's have a think. So I take a look around for any tracks in case one of them got out before me.
So you were standing, not standing, but you're literally 2 minutes northwest of the clearing.
Oh,
so,
okay.
you could look for
okay.
tracks, but...
Yeah.
My question is, we all left the clearing, probably within about 5-10 minutes of each
Correct.
other.
That's right, but all going in different directions, unfortunately.
Right. But once we get clear of the trees, should we not be able to just, if it's a plain north of the trees,
Right.
should we not just be able to kind of see each other, especially if we're not being pursued yet?
Yes, but the problem is that, remember, this is not just a small little grove of trees, right? It's not a huge forest, but it is a little bit of a wood. So by the time you get north of it, you could be, half a mile from each other. So yes, technically, if you're all ending up on the plain, excuse me, you could see each other depending on perception checks and so forth. But you might be a good distance away even if you do see yourself. So although it is a plain, it's not utterly bereft of landmarks is basically what I'm saying. So
yeah, I think, I think I was right. I think the plain is the easiest spot for Robar to wait to see if anyone else is already out or if they are coming out.
That's fine.
So he'll probably wait, just here-ish, and wait to see if anyone comes out. And he also, he would be sort of upwind so that Stone would be able to smell him. Because Stone is familiar with his smell, so he'll be in the direction, whichever way that he suspects they'll be coming from, which is probably off to his east.
Okay. All right, so that seems reasonable. So you're going to sort of wait, picking up on the party. All right.
I think he'll probably wait 10 minutes, and if he doesn't see anyone, he'll start.
Okay. All right. In that case, I'm going to come back to you once I find out what the others are doing. Then, so let's do that. Inga, you went out more or less directly east, or because I was heading towards this creek thing that you were referring to before. So, are you going to continue to do that and head to the river, or are you what is your plan now that you're out clear of the clearing?
Well, I think Inga's first instinct would be to get to the old fort, and she's not too keen on crossing the river with a pony.
Okay.
So, yeah, she's basically, I assume, gonna head towards the river and then north from there until she can find a spot that looks safe enough for crossing.
Okay.
Which may be a long way up. So.
Are you going to try to get to the western bank then and hug the river more or less? Are you?
Well, more of a diagonal line.
Okay.
Up, north.
Gotcha. Okay. In that case, you will not see the trees that I mentioned that Tawny Bear ran into, so that's fine. Okay. So as you head up there, thank you also for all the hosts and stuff, folks. I appreciate them. As you head up to, oh God, what just happened to your token?
What?
Oh, I accidentally deleted it. Ha! That was not the... No,
I was all of you see Inga disappears without a trace. And
no, I accidentally... I tried to draw the ring.
Yeah, you have the ring. Yeah, exactly.
So basically, Inga is heading up here and then from there on.
All right. So let's see. What I'm going to ask you to do right when you get about here, as you head to the northeast, Inga, you do not see any pursuit. You do not hear any pursuit coming from behind you. You also don't see anything yet or anyone around you. You also don't catch sign of Tawny Bear or stuff like that. But you do see the river, which is not, again, your friend the river, the river, which is swollen with the spring waters. The spot where you're getting close to it is actually quite fast. Maybe you wouldn't know this part, but Tawny even faster than where he crossed. So it's actually quite fast. And as you get up to right about here, so basically about maybe 15 minutes away, you can actually see the river as you're heading towards it. I need you to make a constitution check also. We got to see about this exhaustion issue.
So as a dwarf, if she gets drunk, she gets exhaustion taken away from her, right? That's how that works, right?
I don't think.
So Constitution check or saving throw?
Constitution saving throw. Okay.
21.
Yes, you're like, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm a dwarf. Very dangerous over long distances. Completely opposite of Gimli. Yeah, you do feel tired, and you can see that Lillimon, although Lillimon's not quite as tired, because Lillimon actually had a moment of had a little while of just being sort of tied up. But Lillimon also, his head is kind of drooping a little bit, and you can tell that he's kind of tired too as he goes along next to you. But you are making pretty good progress as you get close to the river. Once you arrive at the bank of the river, which is about another 15 minutes, it takes you about roughly an hour and a half, maybe almost 2 hours to get there. You can then set off to the north if you wish. And as you head up to the north, are you basically just focusing on the river, or are you looking, left, right, sideways, up and down?
Oh,
to try
she's
to
like
find...
keeping an eye out.
Okay,
As
for
good
what
as she
though?
can in order. Yeah, well, basically for the others or like tracks of the others.
Got it. Okay, so once you get to about here, I'm going to ask you to make a perception check for me, and Robar, I'm going to have you do the same.
Sir,
Oh boy.
15.
Okay. Robar, what do you got?
Natural.
Oh.
So Robar is just kind of like, I see
Complete wrong direction.
next to me, like you see the details.
Some kind of small bird. In this.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, I can see many things. Land, more land, land plus sky
Tree.
and land.
Land plus sky.
I don't really see much other stuff. But yeah, you really don't know. Now, Inga, but Robar, you're not attempting, are you attempting to be sort of in concealment, or are you out in the open?
No, I'd say he's probably fairly well out in the open. He'd want to be visible to his companions.
Okay, Inga, you think then that you can see way, way off in the distance. You can see the sort of northern edge of the trees that you were in previously, so the northern edge of those woods. And this is a very long distance away, but you think somewhere on the flat plain down there you can see other movement, but again, you're way too far away to see like him specifically. You just see some generalized movement. It could be creatures, it could be bandits, it could be your party, but you see that there is movement off there to the west, and if you wanted, you could go to it, but it would take you a while to get there if you were going to go straight back to the west.
So like I spot somebody where in the spot where
I wouldn't
like,
say
his
somebody.
token
You
is,
don't know
right?
what exactly it is. You spot
But like
something.
where his token is, right?
Right. You spot something.
Okay, no, then Inga keeps moving north, because that would be where that could just be one of the bandit.
Okay,
things.
River, what were you going to say?
I was just gonna say that just again looking at the map and based where River is, I'm just wondering if her movements should be taken into account before Inga makes her decisions.
I guess that depends on where you're going. That's true, actually. Yeah, let's put Inga on pause. It depends on where the river goes.
Because she was just going to head straight north as fast as she could. As soon as getting out of she wants to get to the old ford, remembering that that is the easiest place to cross and the likeliest place that they're all going to meet up, so far as she knows. So she was just going to head straight for the old ford as best she could, and given that they weren't on that side when they were coming down before, she was going to hug the river in order to get there.
Okay. In that case, I'll change this up a little bit. So are you looking east and west as you go to try to see your companion's river, or
yes,
not? Okay.
Very much.
All right. So then let's move you up equal level with them. And then Robar still doesn't see anything, except land and sky. But River, I'll have you make a perception check, and Inga. So let me add in a piece then. So Inga, you see actually somewhat closer to you what looks like two small figures, one larger figure and one smaller figure. It definitely looks like maybe just a couple. Beyond that, there's more movement that I described already that you might not be able to see. But you definitely see what looks like a lone figure and a smaller figure next to it. It's impossible to tell what from this distance, but you can tell that it looks like only a couple of creatures that you see close to you.
Well, could
Oh,
be
wait.
bandits. I keep moving.
Sorry, did I make the right? Okay, yes, that was
Yeah,
what I
you
said.
did. Yeah,
Okay.
unfortunately, River, not so much. Your focus is
Okay.
sort of up to, sort of north. So the only one who really has a call here is Inga on this.
Gotcha.
So no, Inga keeps moving, but she keeps an eye out like while moving, if she can make out who that might be. So
So basically, all three of you are moving in parallel to the north.
But River is moving towards the river. Like River's moving towards.
River's moving to. Of course.
I'm a tautology. I'm just a tautology.
Yes, you were an endless loop.
But yeah, she's making her way towards the river. So.
Okay. That makes sense. So, all right. So Inga, you're gonna go up here. Let's say. I'm just sort of placing in my own mind where these things are as you're heading towards each other.
And from what I remember, Inga did like slip out a little bit ahead of like probably like a 10-minute distance, 10 minutes ahead of her.
I wouldn't say 10. No.
Oh, I'm just thinking back to last time, like in terms of. Oh well. Anyways, yes, she definitely got out at first. So
yes, that's true.
If they were going in the same direction, she'd have catching up. River would have to catching up.
That is true. Yes. That's definitely true. Also, Robar, you said about 10 minutes that you were staying there, right? And then you were gonna.
Yeah, 10 minutes to move on, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, and you're heading, and I'm sorry, you were going to head straight north from there, or you were also going to head northeast?
I think he's heading just northwards, in all honesty, yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's move you up with, sort of level with Inga. And I will, and you can move your piece up level with Inga. And then what I would like is I don't believe I've had River make a Constitution saving throw yet, but I need that from them. And Robar, I don't think I've had you do one yet, so I need you to make one too.
Yeah.
So Constitution saving check is
saving throw.
Saving throw, sorry.
Yep.
So that is just straight Constitution.
No, there should be a saving throw thing on your sheet, actually. I forget where you click on it. Where do you guys click for the...
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Wow. So you feel hale and hearty. No, not hale and hearty. You feel tired, but you are...
Just pumped on adrenaline right now.
Yeah, exactly. Your will and adrenaline is pushing you forward. Stone, who has always struck you as seeming somewhat tireless. Quick in real life note: this is actually true. Dogs will sometimes seem tireless until they keel over. So Stone is gamefully keeping up with you as best he can, and is doing okay right now. He seems fine, but you know he must be tired.
Actually, she was going to at one point, depending on how attuned she is to him right now and stuff. At some point, she was planning on, if she could, if he was looking exhausted, to like carry him on her shoulders.
It's gonna slow you down though. He's a big dog.
Okay, so she'll wait until like exhaustion is clear there.
I'm just imagining Inga carrying Lilleman on her shoulders now. So
staggering
They're
along.
roughly the same size.
You guys arrive 3 months later. Bjorn's place is razed to the ground. All right. Robar, your Dunedain heritage is really serving you well here. You have been used to these forced marches, and as you continue to forge forward, you feel the tiredness, but there is a part of you that denies it, right? There's a part of you that's like, no, you're not tired, actually. And you're made of stronger stuff than this. And this determination pushes our 3 adventurers along as we go back to Tani, who, as you can see, is a little farther south than everybody else because of the situation. Tani, you've been heading straight north, I believe, and so let's place you up, say, 2 hexes. Let's put you right about here. And as you are heading along next to the bank, the river rushing along beside you, you see as you're sort of kind of moving your way up, you see what looks like a empty and possibly burned out boat floating down the stream. It is obviously moving pretty quickly, although the boat is uncommanded by anybody living at the moment. It is just kind of floating aimlessly. Occasionally it spins and bangs into a branch and kind of turns around and then, kind of spins around again and then goes straight again. It is weighed down by something, and it is somewhat in the middle of the river, so you're not, close to be able to see it, but it is passing, it's coming towards you relatively quickly. This boat, which is fairly, as I say, small, but weighed down by something and seems to be uncommanded.
Okay.
If that matters to you, I'm just letting you know.
At this point, I don't think it would.
Okay.
I mean, if it's not clear that there is someone in the boat that might be in need of help, and even if they are,
doesn't look well. I mean, there's certainly nobody moving.
Right.
So okay.
No.
All right. So the boat goes by, and make a perception check for me just as it is passing your position, please, Tommy.
14.
Okay. As it goes by, you see a blanket that is draped over a figure, and just for a minute, some trick of the water actually turns the boat in your direction. You see a pale, sallow face, its eyes closed. This looks as if it might have been some kind of a funeral boat. And in the boat itself, you catch a face of someone which looks familiar. And you are somewhat disturbed to see that it is the face of Hrothulf, Brunhild's and Oderic's foster father.
Oh, crap.
No!
Oh, God.
Bad!
But he was so nice. Well, he was sort of nice. He was nice-ish. He wasn't a great dad.
It was intense.
Yeah. And it just passes by you. Okay. You continue to make your way up to the north. Okay. And actually, I'll get you one spot closer here. Okay, here, about there, is where I need you to make another Constitution saving throw for me, please.
Okay. 12.
Okay. Yeah, you're still okay. Stumbling along, although, again, the exhaustion of this is all beginning to tell. But
And
at the moment, you're still on your
Watching
feet.
for reed mace.
Yes. That's a good point. Make an investigation check for me. I'm sorry. We need to make sure we do that along the way. You're like, where is this reed mace? Why is it just grass? Grass, and more
I
grass.
can make a mace out of these reeds. Does that count?
Yeah, you see grass and sky and grass. Yeah, exactly. Nope. Stumble. All right, let's jump back over back over to, I guess, Robar at this point.
Wait.
No,
You
let's
said
do-
Rathig, right? Was in the boat.
No, not Rathvik. Hrothulf. This is the foster father.
Father. Yeah, Rothvik was the bad husband who's dead.
Right.
No, the foster father's Helmgut.
Oh.
Wait a minute. Am I thinking Hrothulf?
I have it
is
here.
wrong?
I wrote it
You're
down.
right, you're right, it is Helmgut, yes.
Oh, yeah,
I thought-
sorry, Helmgut, sorry. Different H. You're right. Helmgut. Yep. The foster father guy. I beg your pardon. You're quite right. Helmgut. Okay.
Is there any...
I'm
is
just
there-
drawing a tiny skull next to his name.
Yeah.
Is there any what?
No, I was gonna ask if I guess we're not by the river yet, so we wouldn't have. It's
No,
going on the other
too
bank.
far. Yeah, no, too far. And remember, he's closer. I mean, he's been hugging the river for a while, whereas you
Yeah.
guys, it kind of was past you by the time you were up close enough
Yeah.
where you would have noticed it. Okay. Let's talk first then about Inga, who has now made her way basically right alongside as you're continuing to head north, now by the bank of the river. You have probably another couple of hours, maybe an hour and a half or so, and you should be level with Stonyford, Inga. So as you are moving along, by the time you get to Stonyford, you'll have to make another Constitution saving throw here as you continue to make this forced march. But are you, as you're doing this, are you slowing down, or you're continuing to look around you, right? Just to sort of see?
She keeps an eye out.
So make another perception check for me then, please.
There it is. 21.
Yeah, you think behind you, you now see there are figures well in the distance that are hurrying along. If you had to guess, you're sort of peering down that way because it's now early afternoon, and so the sun is overhead, and you can see what you think, again, are these two figures, a larger figure and a smaller figure that seem to be moving in your direction. Whether it's running at you or just running in the same direction as you is unclear, but they are heading your direction.
Can I still not identify them?
Not really. They're still too far away. You could stop and go back towards them, or you could just
No.
continue to go. Okay.
So keep moving.
Okay. All right. You continue to move. Let me deal with river. Oh, go ahead.
Constitution check now, or should I wait?
Oh yes. No, not yet. Not yet. When you get to Stonyford.
Can I, before Inga makes that decision, can I make a perception check to see if I can see her in the
Well, I
distance?
was going to have you next, actually.
Okay.
So go ahead and make that perception check. Ruben.
It's only because if she thinks she sees her, she's going to try and call to her.
Okay. You're too far away for her to be able to. Wait 1 second. You're going to be too far away though for her to be able to, for you to see that she's even looking at you. At best, you'll be able to see. Remember, you're looking at a dwarf. This is a long way away. Like
but
so. And the dwarf's small pony.
I was gonna point out because like Inga and Lilleman are gonna leave like very specific like trails, right? Hoof prints and like wolf-sized footprints.
Yes, but you're not quite on the same path yet. You guys are, remember, you're coming at different diagonals. Now, eventually those will hook up, and the river will run into those tracks or you eventually, but they're not. You're not at that spot yet.
Okay.
If River can see someone in the distance that is small looking and like I'm just imagining
if she does
the plane.
If she does. But
she does.
But I do want to emphasize though, remember we're zoomed way in. We're talking over a distance of a number of miles here. So yes.
Okay.
And normal humans could not do this. The only ways you guys can do it is partly because of heroic features and the fact that you spend your whole life looking at things across large vistas.
Right.
But,
and I'm also not human.
No, I'm saying right. Oh, but I'm talking about the river. I'm going to talk about you.
Yeah.
You are of different, sturdier stuff, obviously.
Okay.
So go ahead and make your perception check, River, and let's see what you see.
Oops.
What do your woodsman eyes see? Not much.
Yeah. Well, not really.
Okay.
Again, you see. I mean, it's not really. I mean, there is movement, but there's movement like all the way. Like there could be swaying things.
Sure.
It's
Can I make an investigation check to pick up centaur tracks from stone to point us in the right direction?
Now you could do that actually if you wanted to send stone ahead. You could actually try to send stone ahead to do that if you wanted. Yes.
Sure. Okay. Let's do that.
So stone kind of gained sort of barks in acknowledgement and starts to somehow, despite your exhaustion, starts to outpace you. Right. Like he's just kind of basically running fast. So go ahead and let's have him make a perception check, not investigation yet. Let's see, maybe he'll see something that you don't see. And Robar, I'm going to be coming to you in just a second. Not really. If he continues to go at that speed, did you say basically go as far as you can and find something and come back? What were your specific instructions to him?
No, I think I just want him to point and lead. Not come back, but point and lead. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. All right. So he's slightly ahead of you in between, and I know it looks like you're overlapping, but again, this is not. This is a very different scale. What's up, Nergabert? Okay, Robar. So you guys are heading up this way. We're gonna move River a little bit closer and her a little bit farther north.
Okay.
As your paths start to converge. Robar, you're continuing to head straight north. So as you get even with, let's say, right about here, I'll have you make another Constitution check, and then we're going to talk perception checks and so forth. Because there's something else that you see too.
Constitution is a 10.
Yeah. You feel this weighing upon you, but you are not quite. It does not sort of drain you to the point of exhaustion yet, but you're starting to feel it quite a bit as given this journey. Even a Dunedain is eventually exhaustible. Of greater concern, though, is what you see in front and to your side. So make a perception check for me, please.
Oh dear.
I do want to remind everybody in chat, by the way, that inspiration is a thing, and you guys have them.
We've had so many good rolls that we couldn't take advantage of.
Exactly.
Mine was not one of them. I got a 9 and a 10.
Yes. So you do not to the east see anything. Again, there's this generalized movement, but nothing specific that would cause you to veer off your path. But you do see something in front of you. As you are continuing to head directly north, you see in front of you a body, almost directly in front of you, which is lying on the ground. It looks to have been pierced with spears. It is probably 5 minutes, but it's sort of lying by itself, and there are several birds circling over it, probably some kind of carrion birds that you can see, again, about 5 minutes away. So you're going to run right into it if you keep going this way.
I'm going to head towards that body. I want to see who's dead.
Okay. What's up, Elven Mariner? All right, as you get closer, the carrion birds kind of lift off, and you see that they've already done some of their grim work. This is a body of a person who has been here for probably not for days and days and days and days, but at least a day or two. As you bend down, I won't describe in great detail, but leave it to your imagination what the carrion birds did to him. But what is left of the body, you can tell, as you're looking, seems to be dressed like the bandits were in the forest. In fact, if you had to guess, this was one of the bandits. And the spears look like some of the spears that you saw in the camp.
Huh. Does he have anything on him of any great importance?
You find a couple things. You find a dagger, kind of a rough dagger, doesn't look to be anything special. You also find a pouch of some, maybe about a few gold coins, basically, that are sort of on his side, that's attached on his side. The other thing about it that I should have mentioned is that he's face down. These spears are in his back.
Deserter.
So he's one of the guys from out at the camp that we just came from, is that
Yes,
right?
no, you don't recognize him specifically, but he's dressed like
Clearly
them.
dressed the same.
Yep.
Are we allowed meta questions?
Depends on the meta question, I guess. Like, what is... I don't really know how to answer that question. I guess, but not if it's going to be cluing in real bar to something.
It would.
Yeah, then I'd say no.
Okay.
Welcome in, Elva Mernon.
He's dressed the same as him. I'll take the coin. Where
Okay.
there is no
It's like
trouble
there's like 4 of them. There's 4 coins.
taking a dead man's purse. And probably take the dagger as well. It's not really any kind of special dagger. It's not very useful for identification, but I'll take it anyway.
It has dried blood on it. You can see that
Oh, that
already
might
in
be,
investigating it.
yeah, that might be useful as evidence, I guess.
Okay.
Not that we have DNA analysis these days.
I was just going to say.
I've got a bloody dagger, but...
Oh,
knows?
man. You
Robots-
look at me like, I think I'll take a stab at it. Sunglasses.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
CSI Stonyford.
yeah, exactly. Oh, man. What's up, Wolfstrike? Okay.
Looks like this guy met a sticky end.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay. But if you had to guess, you would say that he's been here at least a day or so, maybe a little more, just from the way the body looks. And again, the carrion has been at its work. The carrion crows have been at their work for a while.
because Robar's got no one else around and he's like in single player character mode, he says all of this out loud. Looks
Okay.
like he didn't get far. And then,
Okay.
every time he investigates, he says it out loud for some reason.
I was
Looks
just,
like the carrion crows got to him.
nice. do you like look for a skull to kick, like right next to him, and then like? Ah! Oh, you guys know the story about that, right? Do you know that? Yeah. I love that story. For those in chat who don't know, Viggo Mortensen actually broke his foot when he kicked that skull. So he stayed in character. So that sound was literally him yelling in pain, but he stayed in character because he
Oh,
wasn't.
He broke his toe.
Literally broke his toe. Yeah.
oh my god.
Yeah, he literally broke his toe.
Oh,
That dude is committed. I love Viggo in that role.
Also,
Oh man.
Also, like,
that scene
ripped off-
where he almost drowns, like where he falls off the cliff.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, he almost drowned.
He
in
almost
that
drowned.
one. Like
He-
he literally almost drowned. in
Yeah,
that
he
one.
was something else. He committed so much to it that when he got there, he literally went around and headbutted every single orc that was in the Helm's Deep army and stuff. Like, he would just completely threw himself into the role. I can't imagine anybody else doing that role now. He's just so good.
Like
Didn't
there are
he
so
also,
many
like,
good
move
behind the scenes stories like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Like how he
Yeah.
bought like one of the stunt horses for one of the stuntmen
Yes,
because
yes.
the stuntman couldn't afford it.
Yes.
And yeah.
He also like lived off like roadkill at some point. I think it was while he was getting ready for the role or shortly after the role or something.
Right.
Where he just found some roadkill and was like, well, I'm not gonna let this go to waste, and actually.
That's what he did. And when he
Yeah.
actually landed, the first thing that they had him do, literally, I think either that day or the next day after he arrived, was the scene on Weathertop. So, like, the first scene he did, they're like, all right, here you go. Here's the deal. Go to it. Like, because he was a last-minute replacement. They were going to have
Yeah.
somebody else. Like, he was so good in that role. Oh,
And he beat the shit out of a couple of stuntmen too.
yeah, they said that. The stuntmen were like, this guy was no joke. Like, he really, yeah, it was great. Well, I mean, it's the role of a lifetime. Can you imagine? Like, well, you get to
Yeah.
play Aragorn. Like, I'd be like, I will devote my entire existence to this because this is the coolest thing ever. Anyway.
He did play Satan in the Prophecy and was really good in that role.
He's a good actor. He's a good actor. All right. So that is right.
Yeah,
so
I'm gonna continue heading off.
Okay.
he might start heading somewhat more eastwardly to get to the old ford.
Okay, so we're talking like here-ish?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
kind of...
All right. So we're going to have you head that way. All right, Tawny. You have been you're continuing to hustle north as best you can. And as you get, as you find yourself closing in on Stonyford, you sort of crest one of the small hills that leads to the town. And as you can look down, you can see that Stonyford, this is now probably early evening, actually, that you're arriving there, probably 6 or 7 o'clock maybe. And again, you're absolutely exhausted. I'm going to have you make a roll for that in just a minute. There is nobody out and about, but there is, except for one exception, and that is that in the center of the town, you can actually see someone just standing, some solitary figure. Who is just sort of standing in the middle of the clearing. You may remember you've got the watchtower, and then you've got the houses kind of in a semicircle roughly. There's a well, and then right near the well is someone who is standing there.
So yeah, Donnie's gonna head straight for them.
Okay.
And he's basically like...
Okay. As you come across, as you enter, you can see that the person has her back to you, and you're almost positive that it's actually Ava, who you may remember is the leader of the village, who is there with her head down.
Just going right up to her.
Okay. And as you come up close, you can actually see that she's got her head down as if lost in thought. And behind, as I say, the rest of the area is deserted. And so as you come up to her doing the heavy breathing thing, she whirls around. Ah! Oh! And she stops. You look as if you've risen from the dead.
Very close.
What's going? What happened?
And he just kind of drops for a moment, and
she kind of reaches out to try to catch your arm as best she can.
she does. Well, I mean, I was gonna say he's kind of a big guy, but she's sort of a big lady.
She's strong.
Anyway,
Yeah.
And so he keeps motioning to, like, for water.
And she sort of carefully makes sure that you're not going to keel over just kneeling on the ground. And she turns around. She hurriedly, reels the crank to pull the bucket up to the well. And then there is a ladle that's sort of just lying by the side of the well that she picks up and brings the ladle over to you. Dipping it into the bucket.
Out of the bucket and then brings the little one.
Yep. And then she has it and sort of hands over the ladle to you.
There is a force coming from far to the southwest across the river. They mean to destroy the Bjornings.
She says, "What force? Who are they?"
It's bandits. Their leader's name is Walter.
And her eyes widen a little bit. Walter the Bloody.
Yes.
She says, "But I had heard rumors of this, but I assumed they were just rumors. What, they mean to destroy our town?"
They are already en route, and we don't know whether they're coming here first or whether they intend to make directly for Bayon's house first. The plan, such as it was, we didn't have much time to make one up, is for Oderic to lead them into the fold. Into a trap. In the fold.
And she says, the gloomy fold, you mean?"
Gloomy fold.
And she kind of, she stares and she says, we are so few. And one who would have, and she kind of shakes her head. She says, "Helmgut died several days ago.
I know.
We just buried him this morning."
I saw he passed me.
And she kind of looks up again, and you can see there's a moment where she has a tear in her eye, and she says, He was a hard man, but brave. This village is doomed, and I have done nothing to stop it.
Now is the time to change that.
She kind of looks again with, at you with tears filling her eyes, and then she kind of grabs your arm because you're still kneeling, and she kind of gently provides upward pressure as if to say, stand up. And she says, can you be here by yourself for a moment?
How long of a moment?
And she said, several minutes. I need to do what I can to get whoever we have that can fight.
Yes.
There's not many of us, but we'll try.
Yes.
And she, so she turns and she begins to shout loudly, come forth! And she yells, to these, and she's yelling around there. And again, this is evening, so the doors are closed. The doors begin to open. People look out curiously. Over time, you begin to hear some chattering. And after about 5 minutes, there is a buzz. Again, this is not a big place, of course. So you see the villagers, probably, maybe 30 of them or something like that, gathered. And as you look around, Tani, this is not what you would call, what's the word? The Magnificent Seven. I mean, this is not a crew of incredible people in terms of war readiness. A few of them, but they are Bjornings, right? And a few of them are carrying pitchforks, and one or two have what look like rough swords. Maybe 8 to 10 warriors. There are some women among their number as well, both men and women. Some of the others, though, look to be either too sick or too old. There is, of course, this pall that has been over the village of Stonyford that you felt when you first came in here. But such as it is, some of them seem to be holding on. You can see in their eyes, from their point of view, they're already dead, but they'll fight after death anyway. There's kind of a grim resolve that you can see in the curling of the knuckles around the handles of the pitchforks. And Ava turns to you and says, this is the best that we can assemble, but it is perhaps better than none, and perhaps we'll kill a few of the bastards ourselves. We'll make something out of this town. And she turns and says to the rest of the villagers, something out of this place. Maybe we're doomed, but we'll face it ourselves. And there's no cheer. There's no, yeah, but there is kind of a general nodding, like a silent feeling of resolve. And as you are sort of looking around, you see none other than Brunhild, who now makes her way out of the hut. And she stares at you with wide open eyes. She's on the other side of the circle. There is an unspoken question on her lips.
And Tawny will just kind of nod.
And she kind of grabs the door frame almost for support in relief, maybe. And then she nods back and sort of waves at you. There's a sort of smile, and then she sort of cries as she sinks down within the door frame, the open door frame. And it's not sobbing, just sort of quietly crying. And Ava turns back to you and says, we're yours if you will lead us. Which way do we go?
North.
And she nods, and she, as she leaves, as you turn to go, like she takes her, about 8 to 10 people, and you turn to follow, you feel a hand. Oh, sorry.
He's going to go talk to Brunhild first.
Okay. Go ahead and do that then. She's still sort of, she's just sitting, like in the door frame still.
Right. And so he's going to go over and kind of kneel down and just, more like just sort of drop.
Yeah.
Down on the knee. And just sort of very carefully just lift up her chin. And bring her eyes to his and say,
I don't know the details of what happened with all of you, but if what I suspect is true, I know you can fight.
And go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say, if you would see Odoric again, you will have to.
Okay, now are you going to wait for a while, or are you just going to, say that and then leave? Let's see.
I'm going to give it a good, 10 heartbeats or so, see if she responds in any way.
She she looks at you, and her chin remains high, and she kind of leans back slowly with her head against the door frame. She doesn't answer you. Her crying stops, and she just gazes into your eyes. There is no real response, either positive or negative, in them.
It is your path to walk. Do with it as you will. And he pulls himself up the other side of the door frame.
Right.
And starts making for the north.
As you do so, you're passing the last house as you're heading north, and I'm going to come to the other three of you in just a minute, as you're heading north, and someone by your shoulder grabs you with a surprisingly strong grip, just sort of grabs your shoulder for a minute, and says, you hear, doom and endings, doom and endings, doom and endings, doom and endings. You bring them to doom and endings. And you turn to see yourself looking at Heartwolf, who you may remember from before. He looks at you wildly.
Donnie's like, I so don't have the time or energy for this. But he does take a moment and says, endings come to us all. Doom. These people have a chance to claw their way out from under it. If they wait here, it will come and find them nonetheless.
And he looks at you for a minute, removes his hand, and then says, for a moment, his voice clears, and he says, from the south. When things are at their lowest, look to the south. And then he shakes his head and says, doom and endings, go by, doom and endings. And turns and walks off.
I'll let them both pass by.
Okay.
That's what he meant, but that's where Tony's taking it.
All right. So we're going to head you up this way. I need you to make a Constitution saving throw as you're leaving there.
Kitty.
Yep.
6.
Yeah. You, Tani, your will is impressive, but sometimes the spirit is willing and the flesh is weak. And you have... This journey continues. I can't say it any more times than I have. Take a toll on you. You take another level of exhaustion as you're trying to drag yourself up, basically, to continue. As you mark that down, I'm going to head back over to the others. Inga, I will start with you. Your trip to the river, the rest of the way, is more or less uneventful now as you're sort of heading straight up to the north. And right when you get about there, I don't want to be moving your characters. I'm just trying to show you where the positioning is. So when you get even with there, you can see as you look across that the river itself. Now, basically, to describe this a little bit more clearly, so Tani did this, but this is actually happening slightly after you've already been there. So I just want you to know that you're not actually going to be seeing Tani across the river, because he was behind you, if you remember. So you're basically just there across the river. Are you continuing to head up to the west, Inga? Or sorry, not the west, the north, like on the western bank? Because you're trying to get to the old ford, right? I believe.
How easily crossable does the river look here?
If you remember the way you did it last time, you did it with ropes and all that.
Okay, then she is gonna head straight north.
That's what I figured, but I just wanted to check. The good news, though, I'm sure River will be happy to hear, is that there are tracks now that she's going to be running into in just a minute. But before we do that, Inga, I'll have you make a perception check for me, please.
No, wait. Before that happens, Inga would like to write down a note.
Okay.
No, wait. First of all, how far, is the next best building? Not the tower, but the village building.
It's on the other side. It's to the eastern side of the tower. The closest thing to the river is the tower, and then past it is more buildings. How far? Not far enough that you could chuck a note, if that's what you're asking.
No, but she has bow and arrow, right?
Oh yes, you could definitely do that. Yeah.
So the idea is to write a note, wrap it around an arrow, and like shoot it over somewhere where like somebody will see that arrow.
In the back of Heartwolf, like doom and endings.
No, I was like thinking like some tall building or something.
He's just like, I told you so. Yeah.
You can always set the arrow on fire as well.
Yes, for extra.
Look to the
points.
south.
Oh man, yes, you could certainly do that. What do you want to say in the note? Hey, what's up, Aldrin?
To whom it may concern.
No.
Dear
God,
sir
let me
or
think.
madam, I would.
Cordial salutation.
She's gonna be like very short about it. Like, we made it out alive. Gonna head for the old fort. Signed, Inga.
Okay. I was hoping you could do what they all did with the ancient style writing. The faster the note, it's always, I write to you in haste. I'm like, why did you waste a sentence like writing to us in haste? Just like, I write to you in haste.
Drums in the deep.
Drums in the deep, yeah. All right.
Inga is too pragmatic for
Yes,
that.
no, that fits. We're on our way. Go, Inga. All right. So you do that. You're able to wrap it around an arrow. Now, are you aiming it for like the center of the village, roughly speaking?
Well, I was like thinking like some building where I can like shoot it like into like some.
The well.
Straight up in
No,
the ground,
what's
like
the
all the
word?
way down.
I have to look up a word. Sorry.
That's okay.
Well, yeah. Are the houses mostly stone, or are they like?
There is
there.
stone with
A
some
wooden
thatched
beam.
roof, thatched straw, etc.
Are
Okay.
there like any wooden beams she could like shoot that into?
Not really. It is
a
mostly
wall bit
stone and thatch. You could definitely shoot into a roof of some place. I mean, these are all one-story things, except for the tower.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, well, I guess. Well, I mean, like what looks like it would look like somebody would actually find the note there, right?
got it.
That's
So let's have you make a dexterity
yeah.
check. Let's see how close
Okay.
you get to that. Don't worry, you're not going to actually kill anyone en route, as amusing as that would be.
Yet.
Oh, 21.
Oh, wow. You're just like... Right, it lands right in Ava's hand. No, so...
Where did you go that? Whoa.
Wow. Message for you, sir. It lands in the ground, actually, directly to the north of the village. And actually, this is interesting because what I would like you to do, Tawny, actually, as you're heading north, is make a perception check for me. I'm going to do the same thing for the villagers as well.
I'm just imagining if like Inga had actually sent a note like that saying, "Bandits coming, run!" and then Tawny arrives after his exhausting slog to find that they've all already been warned.
I
by-
have news. Oh, yeah, exactly. Right.
They're coming. You mean these people? Yeah, we know about that. Thanks.
Okay, so you, let's see. Right.
Oh yeah, she would have probably mentioned the bandits in the note. Just not the thing.
On my way, also bandits.
Yes, that is coming.
Also, Tawny would probably recognize Inga's hand.
Oh, right, and that's what I was going to say, because actually, you discover it, the villagers are too focused. Despite your tiredness, Tawny, and despite the fact that this is at nighttime, you do nonetheless actually see an arrow that is sticking up from the ground with what is clearly a piece of paper or, attached to it, some kind of a scroll. So, do you take the time to grab it?
Yeah.
Okay, so you unroll it and you basically read the note that you just heard, and yes, it's very clearly written in Inga's hand. If you had to guess, this means that Inga is ahead of you, but not incredibly far. So there is that. Now you can let Ava know about this, or the villagers, or not.
Say, Ava,
Yes,
message from Inga.
and she looks at the note and she kind of unrolls it and then looks back at you. I was going to ask you what had happened to her. I thought perhaps she and the rest of them hadn't made it.
No, those they're far too stubborn to kill. However, this tells me that she is further along the path. So, who is your fastest, steadiest runner?
And she looks around. It would probably be Stennis there. And the aforementioned Stennis looks to be a young man, maybe in his early 20s. He's probably the healthiest. He was also the one that when you were sort of doing a quick assessment, you're like, okay, like this guy actually looks like he could handle himself. The others, you're not 100% sure, but anyway, he's there. He's still, running. You're having this conversation as you're basically all jogging, up to the north. So she points out at him, and Stennis, is there, looks back over his shoulder.
So what is in my mind at this point is that we send him ahead as fast as he can to Beorn and tell him exactly what's going on, and that we mean that Odoric means to lure these guys into the fold. Beorn sets up an ambush. We slow our pace, let them get ahead of us, and when they're in, we come up from behind.
And so Ava, has brought Stennis over, and Stennis listens to all of it and then nods. And Ava says, "We're all tired, lad, but you're the only one who can do this. Can you make it happen?" And he nods kind of with a firm line, his dark, wispy hair kind of over his dark eyebrows, and he says, "I'll do what I can, Ava. I'll get there." And he turns and then he kind of nods at you, unless you have anything else you want to say to him, Tani. Okay.
Tani just with absolute certainty says, "Yes, you will."
And so he nods at you and then turns and, redoubles his pace, as they say, sort of picking up the pace as he heads off into the night. It is, by the way, somewhat of an overcast night, not much of a moon or stars to light your way. You can see well enough to travel, but there's definitely not a lot of distance that you can see, which is maybe a little unfortunate to try to find your companions, but it does have the advantage of preventing any, marauders from seeing you otherwise.
By the way, you mentioned something earlier about me doing a perception check before I said the thing about shooting the arrows.
And I'll have you do that in a minute. That's not related to Tani, though. But
Okay.
So now time zip over to Inga. Yes. So now go ahead and make a perception check for me, Inga.
Yes,
While she's
sir.
rolling that, this was Tani telling now this group slows itself.
Natural 20.
Nice.
How do you like them apples?
Outstanding. I'll talk about that in a minute. Go ahead, Tani. Sorry.
That our group slows their pace so that we don't get it tired as fast, and it's easier on people to move, and it gives the opposing force a chance to get ahead of us and move north.
Okay. Sounds good. Wait. Sorry. Gives the opposing force.
Yeah.
You want them to get ahead of you.
Walter's men ahead of us.
Got it. Okay.
So that Odoric gets them down into the thing. Bjorn attacks from the front.
Got it.
We come up from behind.
Okay. We're talking about small gradations, though, of movement, right? Because you don't want them to get so far ahead of you.
Right.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. All right, Inga. With that check, you are able to see as you're passing by the riverbank on the eastern side. You can see what looks as if there are several boats that were drawn up. And there looks as if there is a rather hastily assembled cairn, which is basically this pile of stones that was piled up. But there's several of them, almost as if there was some ritual that happened here. It might have been, in your experience, when you saw a bunch of these piles of stones, they were demonstrative of funerals or of, some kind of services for the dead. And as you're going along, you can see it's on the eastern bank, not that far from the tower, as if Stonyford, followed some ritual or some particular ceremony in the not distant past, probably within the last day or so, you would guess.
Yeah, Inga probably doesn't care.
Okay, no, that's fine.
So,
That's fine.
She's just gonna
letting you
keep
know.
moving.
Hey, what's up, Kendrisia? Yeah, that's fine. That's cool. All right, so you are continuing to head to the north. Now, River, as you sort of come across the tracks, I want you to make a perception check, because there may be something else going on also, so make a perception check for me.
Alligators.
Yes. Okay. There are two things that you notice, River. By the way, I was laughing at the fact that we had no rolls last time, but because of all the checks, we had a lot of rolls this time. But all right, but that was to be expected. So a couple things. First of all, you do come across what look like it's gotten dark now, so it is now, as I said, not really kind of a moonless sky. It's overcast, so you're really not able to see that far in front of you. However, you have now come across what are very clearly relatively decent-sized boot prints, like dwarf-sized boot prints, and hooves, unquestionably hooves of a horse or pony. Pretty small hooves too. So you can put two and two together, and Stone is basically jumping up and down excitedly and sniffing and wagging his tail furiously, which suggests that he recognizes something also. And it is heading more or less straight north along the western bank. However, you also have something else. In the far distance, you hear several sounds of perhaps a shout or a yell far behind you. And as you turn to look over your shoulder, you see in the very far distance what might be the faint twinkle of fire, as if there are torches being held.
Interesting. Out of curiosity, like, so the fire that got set before they all left,
Right.
Did that, like, did the smoke of that ever stop? Did it rise? Like, if somebody
it didn't stop. It didn't rise. You would guess that the bandits, once they discovered it, put it out pretty quickly, because it looks like there wasn't much beyond that. Unfortunately, you didn't have the explosion walk away from the flames like with the Goblin Caves for this one.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So there are torches in the distance. Cool. They're clearly coming up this way. How far behind are they, would I estimate?
If you had to guess, you would say maybe an hour and a half or maybe an hour. They are they're making pretty good pace, and they of course are rested. You guys were not.
Right. Good to know. Okay. Cool. Well, she's just going to press on, and she is going to follow these tracks, and as it gets dark, is going to just trust to Stone to keep following them and follow the river rather than light any kind of torch or draw attention to herself. Is there enough time? Like, is she passing by the same cairns?
Not yet, but she will be momentarily. Like in a minute, she'll do that. And actually, Inga, I didn't have you roll your saving throw when you got level with Stonyford, did I?
No.
I need to have you do that.
Constitution, right?
Yep.
21.
Woohoo.
Wow. Yeah, Inga's
Dwarven endurance.
Don't jinx it. Nope, don't say it.
Sorry.
Straight up though, man. I'll tell you what, dwarven resilience is no joke. All right. So Inga is fine. Yes. So let's move both Tawny. Now, you know what? To make this a little easier, to make it clear, I'm going to put Inga close to the old fort, even though you're not quite there yet. But I'm doing that because I want it to be clear that Tawny is south of this position. And River, I will put you next to, and Stone, next to Stonyford. So now you're sort of even with that. Robar, I'm going to be coming to you in a minute.
Just to be clear, though, River is still presumably farther north than Tawny, isn't she?
Yeah. Okay, so let's put you up here.
Okay.
Yes, I mean I'm trying to make sure that I'm trying to do it at the spots where we have you encounter things.
Right.
For a minute, so just for a minute, so you can see this. This is where you see the cairns. So make a perception check for me, and let's actually see if you do see the cairns because it's dark. Let's see if you can see them. Yeah, absolutely, you see them. The same thing as I've described. A couple of boats drawn up, cairns that are on the side of the river here. What looks like there's also sort of a deep kind of depression on the eastern bank. You can't make it out very well because of the darkness, as I said, but enough to suggest that there was maybe something that was done on that side of the river, on the eastern bank of the river, some ceremony of some kind. What it was, you don't know, obviously, but...
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, okay. Okay. I mean, So I don't know if that causes you to pause or if you're just going to keep going or not. Well, can I make a quick, like, traditions check or something?
Sure. Yeah, you can do that. Absolutely.
Because I doubt she will slow down, but if... I just want to see if she can confirm what I suspect.
Okay. I mean, you know that ceremonies, especially with towns and villages that are up and down the river, often involve ceremonies of loss or memorial that happen at the river. And so
Okay.
it would not surprise you at all if there had been such a ceremony done here. They're generally not rituals of celebration, I'll put it that
Okay.
way, when you see cairns. So, yeah.
Okay.
But it's not like a mass grave either. I mean, it just seems like they were...
Gotcha.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, she's going to look towards the cairns, and she's going to murmur the equivalent of like a woodsman prayer for like the fortunate passing of people into the west or something like that.
Okay.
But just press on.
Okay. Okay. So now I'll put you north so we can make sure that we're there, still following these tracks, stone slightly ahead of you as you go.
Do you need me to make a saving throw for
And I
Constitution?
will need you to make a saving throw now, yes. Yep. This is definitely starting to pull on you, River, as you continue to make this trip. The strain of the journey, and you can see Stone kind of, although he's continuing to keep on keeping on, but he's dragging a little bit too. So you do take a level of exhaustion.
Okay.
All right, Robar. In the meantime, as you are continuing to head north and starting to kind of angle to the east, I'm going to ask you right about here, right around Stonyford, except you're farther to the west of it. I want you to make two things. One, Constitution saving throw, and then two, I'm going to ask you to make a perception check.
First of all, perception, then Constitution.
First of all, Constitution.
Okay,
And then
okay.
perception. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Oh, wow. You're like,
But I see everything.
I continue to be amazed how well dice fit narratives, though, because, again, as I said, it was getting closer and closer, and finally, you do take a level of exhaustion. You are.
There it is.
This has just been really hard. You've traversed already a number of miles and a long journey that would have normally taken you a day instead of the time of this. So you were definitely exhausted. I thought it was funny that I just saw Stratica say this is what well-rested Will looked like. I mean, maybe, but not a well-rested Robar, let me tell you.
No,
Definitely not a well-rested Robar. So now the perception check. Oh, the 22. Okay. As
22.
you turn around, sort of like, there's two things you notice. The first is, now it is still too dark, but you hear the sound of calls, like way, way behind you. And as you look over your shoulder, you can see several flickers of what are very clearly fires, probably torches being carried. They're moving. You can see them sort of dancing and bobbing in the distance. It's a good distance behind you, but they're closing pretty quickly from what you can tell, coming almost directly from the south of you.
oh man. I'm gonna have to cut across to the east, closest to the river, in hopes of being able to escape.
Okay, so like straight east, basically?
Yeah, I think he just cut straight east. The river is almost certain doom for him, but being caught is definite doom.
It's almost
for-
certain
for-
doom. That's
For
funny.
Robar, going near a river is...
It's
Oh my
always a problem. Okay, now when you get close to the river, I'm going to stay with you for a minute. First of all, now you're actually getting close to being just about even with Tani because of the way your particular journey traveled. So basically, Inga's ahead, river behind, and then the two of you guys are almost level now because of the way your journeys took. But the other thing I want to mention is I want you to do a perception check when you get close to the river, and let's see whether you actually see...
I see the river.
other signs of the
Many
river.
kinds of river.
Yes, many rivers.
I see water. Yeah, it's a 7. she might have been here.
There might have been something here. You see the river. It's the river in front of you. You see. You see lots of water and stuff like that. That is what you see. However, I am going to allow you to make an investigation check. You'll be happy to know.
Okay.
Well, maybe you'll be happy to know. It depends on how we do.
Yeah, we'll see.
Oh, man.
About like you might expect.
I mean, I'm tired. I'm exhausted. So.
Yep. That exhaustion is really kind of resting on you. So you just continue to focus on you're straight east. You're actually north of Stonyford at this point, and so you just are now basically booking it up the western side of the river, your long strides seemingly eating up the ground below your feet, despite the strain and stress that you feel on your muscles, your eyes fixed forward as way in the distance you hear an occasional call and shout, which seems to be coming ever closer as you run. Before we move back to the players, I want to take a moment and pause and welcome everybody who's watching. You are watching Day 18 of Adventures in Middle-earth, Wilderland Adventures. This is Episode 3, Kinstrife and Dark Tidings. The party is engaged in a really, well, fun is not the way, I mean, it is fun, but it's like the slog, the struggle is real, as they are trying to outrace a group of bandits and also warn Bjorn in time in different pathways. If you like what you've seen here, please follow the channel. Please support the channel in the many ways you can. Please check out all of the individual party members as well, because they have, they're all wonderful people and all have their individual stuff that they do, so please check them out also. Okay. So let's head back over to... Let's try to do this now, the person who's farthest ahead. So let me go with Inga first. So Inga, as you are closing in here, you're now closing in on the old ford. It is now basically close to midnight. So you're it's now... Exactly, it's right close to midnight. So as you're reaching this old ford, the question is, you've now got the road which crosses over, and there are, of course, you know that there's Bjorn and guards and all that kind of stuff. Do you want to stay west, or do you want to cross over to the east and then head north again from there?
I am at the old fort. So
you are, you're going to be there within 15 minutes, basically.
Yeah, okay, no, I'm gonna go straight for the old fort.
Okay. When you arrive at the old ford, first of all, correct me if stop me if you heard this before, I need you to make a Constitution saving throw. And then secondly, we're going to find out what happens when you come across the guards.
16.
Okay, you're fine still. I mean, fine being relative. You're still really tired, but...
Hella fine.
As you get onto the bridge, you've got two Bjorn and guards kind of stride forward. They have thick staves, wooden staves in each of their hands, and they stride forward, holding it horizontally in front of you. Halt! What are you doing here? Speak your purpose.
First, do I recognize any of them?
No,
From
you
last
don't.
time we've been here? Okay.
You don't.
Greetings. My name is Inge, daughter of Ida. I'm here to warn you, basically, because there are bandits coming from the south. And they are coming fast, so...
They look at each other. Bandits? Who are they? Who leads them?
Does the name Walter ring a bell?
And one of them kind of glances. We have heard the name of Walter, yes. I thought that he was far off to the south.
Well, not so far anymore.
What did I just say? They're coming from the south.
Exactly. So he sort of looks down at you with his eyes narrowed, and he says, I want to believe that what you're saying is true. But there are only two of us here right now. If we send one of them and we're wrong, this could be a setup. What if
What
perhaps...
do you mean just two?
Well, there are only two guards here at the ford. What if you're attempting to convince us this so that we leave it unguarded?
No, don't leave it unguarded. Did anybody else come through here recently, like?
And he said,
within the past few hours?
No, not so far. We've heard nothing.
Well, I am waiting for my companions. We were at their camp, and we created a diversion to all get away from there. But we had to split up for that. So I am expecting my companions to come through here if they made it out alive and are going to pass through here. So maybe we all just wait here for now for the next few hours.
They nod and they say, very well. In that case, we wait. And you can keep your... And at first he starts to say dog, and then he sees he's like, pony. With you, and the others, they kind of looks at the other Bjorning, and they nod and they say, you can wait on the bridge if you like, or if you wish, we have a fire going over there, and he points to the eastern side of the bridge, and you can see there's a fire that's been set, a fairly sizable campfire that you could sit around if you wish.
Oh, thank you very much, that's very kind of you. So if my friends pass through here, you don't know them, so Inge start to describe what they look like so that they know.
When you get to Tawny Bear, they say, one of them is a Bjorning?
Yes.
And the other one says, Tawny Bear. And he says, "Ah, yes, the Peacekeeper." And they...
Like Inga rolls her eyes really hard as he says that.
Yeah, that guy.
that dude.
Yeah, that would be him.
Oh, man. One of them says, "You mean the Punisher?" No, totally different. Okay. So, all right. So you position yourself. So you can actually move yourself over to the eastern side now.
So Iga's
Inga.
gonna take a nap, like eat something and take a nap until like the first person arrives.
Okay. So go ahead and position yourself to the east. You can put yourself on that white dotted line there. Whoa, God. Of some kind. Classicor. There we go. I just got the da-da-da-da. Thank you, Classicor, for the resub, man. Thank you. 6 months in a row. Very much love. Appreciate it, man. Thank you, dude. Thank you so much, Classicor. All right. So you are now on the eastern side. Okay. Next up, we'll deal with the river. So river and stone. As you guys are coming up, you can actually see as you get close to the ford, so basically when you're right around here, about 15 minutes away, you can see that there is a fairly large campfire that's been set. There seem to be 2 solitary guards, or you assume they're guards anyway, that are standing on the bridge. And the tracks basically that you're following lead right up to the bridge. And as you get closer, Stone pants and basically looks at you, and it looks as if Stone basically wants to just bolt down the hill. There's this little, not a hill, but really kind of a small decline towards the bridge. Like he's like, "Come on," gotta go.
River is definitely going to the ford.
Okay.
So yeah.
So he heads ahead of you. And as you get to the ford, so Stone is here, we'll have you be here. River, I'll need you to make another Constitution saving throw as you arrive at the ford, and the 2 guards stride forward to just confront you. Okay. Yeah, you managed to keep it together, as perhaps the sight of the bridge here gives you some hope, as you can see some other friendly faces, or at least not openly hostile ones. They march forward, their staves held horizontally in front of them, and say, "Halt! State your purpose."
I'm called the River. This is my dog Stone. My purpose is to warn you and Bjorn and all the Bjornings in the area that there is a force of 50 or 60 bandits coming up behind us. They're led by Valter, who's the son of Valand, son of Girion. And he wants to destroy everything in his path, and specifically wants to kill all the Bjornings and Bjorn himself. You have to warn him. We all have to warn him.
And they take this in as they're listening, and one of them says, "Your tale has come to us already, stranger, and it is one of your own companions who gave it to us." And they gesture over, and you can see slumbering by the campfire on the other side of the river, you see a horse that is kind of a small little pony that has his head down, and you can see a figure wrapped in a blanket next to said pony.
River looks like she basically turns to water. River just melts with relief and goes, "Inga!" and just and looks like she's just going to bolt over in that direction, and then realizes that she's asleep and maybe has a moment of going, "Okay," but first turns her attention back to the guards and says, "They're at most an hour behind me. I could see their torches. This is if there's any way for you to signal for reinforcements or to reinforce this area, we need to do that quickly."
And he says, "Unfortunately, stranger, we are somewhat thin here as of late. We had several ceremonies of grief and mourning that sent some of the Bjornings near here up there. They are on their way back to us from Bjorn's house, but at the moment it is only the 2 of us here who hold this ford. We have had no sign of trouble here for a month or more. We heard already from your friend that there was a concern, but she asked us to wait and not leave the place unguarded. We can do the best we can to hold it here, but you will probably move faster than we can at this point."
Honestly, all right. Let me speak to my friend first. We have 2 other companions who we got separated. I don't know where exactly they are, but I thought we'd all meet here just because it seemed to make sense. All right. Has Inga told you of our companions?
And they say, "Yes, we heard of you. There is one of the Dunedain who should be there, and then one of our kind, Bjorning, Tawny Bear, whom we know.
All right. I saw no sign of them as I was walking, only Inga. Very well, let me speak to her first.
Very well, stranger. And they sort of, sweep their staves aside, allowing you to pass. And as you go across, you can see that Inga is snoring wrapped in her blanket with Lillimon by her.
River is simultaneously so happy to see Inga and also so jealous of the fact that she's asleep, that it's with only a tiny bit of bitterness that she shakes her awake and goes, Inga! Inga! And at this point also just kind of clasps her into a tight hug and is extremely just so happy to see her.
Oh, hey.
I didn't know if I could find you again. I saw no trace of Rabar or of Tawny, did you?
I did not. Are you alright?
I'm alright. I'm a little tired, and so is Stone, but I could see their torches in the distance behind me as I was running. They were perhaps like at most an hour and a half behind me, probably more like an hour if they were moving faster.
Oh, that's bad. Have you met the others?
The guards?
No, I mean Robar and Tawny.
No, I saw no trace of them at all. I was looking for tracks. I only saw yours and Lillimon's, but it's possible that we're the only ones that followed the river. I'm not sure where Rabar and Tawny exited the woods from. They might have found alternate routes. They might be ahead of us. They might be behind us. I'm not sure.
Well, I'm the first one who got here, so if they were heading towards here, which I'm assuming.
I thought they would as well.
Yeah.
I thought this made sense because it was the easiest place to cross, so I just thought that it made the most sense to meet. But we can't afford to wait long for them unless we plan on trying to hold back an army of 60 people with those two dudes at the ford. She doesn't say dudes. But
so, considering hindsight, I should have probably gotten to go get help.
There's no sense wasting time on what we could have done. It's only what we can do from now.
Yeah.
Stone,
How
by
much
the way,
time
is
has
licking.
passed,
Stone is
Greg?
licking the ankles of Lillimon, and like jumping it down. Lillimon is kind of nuzzling Stone. They're sort of tiredly banging into each other the way animals often do when they're greeting each other. So, as far as time has passed, you've been asleep probably only about 45 minutes. River was pretty close by the time you got up
power
there.
nap, yes.
Yes. Yeah, power nap.
So, what would you suggest we do now?
I think the only thing we can do is press on because we don't know where anyone else is and we have to make sure that we can reach Bjorn. But if the guards are rested, I could keep going. I could absolutely keep going. But if there's any way to build our speed or signal or something to get the message to Bjorn faster, that's the crucial thing right now. We have to trust that Odoric is going to manage to lead them to the Gloomy Fold. So we need to have Bjorn warned with enough time that he can make preparations to ambush them there.
Arf?
Yes.
A rider. How long would it take for a rider to get to Bjorn's house from here?
Probably a little less than a day if they went just straight north and paused for nothing.
Yeah, no.
Be pretty exhausted at the other side of it.
Yeah, my pony would probably not survive that after this. No, okay.
How long is it going to take us on foot still? 2 days?
Well, if you have a forced march where you don't rest again, you might be able to make it in a little over a day, day and a half. Basically on horse, a little less than a day. On foot, maybe day and a half. Again, assuming forced march, which, you guys, you've seen all the checks, so.
Let us go back to the other side of the bridge and see if we can spot them by now, because you said they have torches, right?
Quick question. Is the ford a bridge, or is it like an easier crossing?
The ford is basically it's not an easier crossing. There is actually a small bridge. I shouldn't say small. Low bridge, let's put it that way. The river here does happen to be much lower, and so the bridge kind of crosses over it, and it's well maintained and well kept. It's not very high. It's high enough that boats could go under it, but it's not like way up in the air. So
if it were destroyed, would that does it look like something that could slow them down if they weren't going to cross here?
A, probably not much. B, it's very unlikely the Bjornings would let you do that.
Right.
And also it would take a long time to destroy. This is pretty well made.
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
You can just whip together some gelignite. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. You could just bridge over the River Kwai. Yeah. You can't, unfortunately. Not so much. You're fresh out of Wizards.
But you are certain that Walter and his men are heading here, right? Not to Stonyford.
They were an hour behind me. And how far behind is Stonyford now?
Stonyford from the fort is probably, under normal circumstances, about a day. Although, again, you guys have done it much less than that. So
it's reasonable to assume they've passed Stonyford. Right. Like they passed.
I mean, they could have sent a division, like a few of their men over to check it out. But given how many people were there, although 50 to 60 bandits is an okay-sized force, it's only an okay-sized force, not like an army of hundreds. So
right.
Yeah.
Well, I did shoot a message to Stonyford when I was.
Oh, good.
Passing by. If they got my message, then they do know to find us here.
River is so happy to hear this, and she just looks and says, "Great minds, Inga. Great minds. I was hoping to find you in part because I thought that you'd be able to shoot an arrow to them. I don't have a bow myself, but so at any rate,
I want to remedy that.
Axes are more my thing. But no, this is the best news I've heard all day.
Well, I don't know if they have gotten my message. That's another question. Also, there was I think they had a funeral there. No idea what that was about.
I saw the cairns, and the guards said that there were rituals of grief being attended to farther south, which is part of why they're not as manned here as they normally are. But I think that all we can do is press on. I mean, part of me wonders if it's worth even trying to wait for any of the others. I don't know that it is, because if we're waiting for them, we're also allowing them to close the distance behind us, and they're better rested than we are.
No, we should just leave a message and...
Yes, leave a message and hope that Robar... He clearly hasn't made it ahead of us. He hasn't crossed here because the guards didn't see him. Unless, of course, he snuck across.
Well, he could have crossed
Robar
Stony
just like
Ford.
drowning in the river.
Yeah, montage.
Or maybe he's gonna try to cross the river further north, where the water is more shallow. But
It's
Why does
possible.
everyone think he's so competent?
and also I think last time we've been north of here, there've been boats.
It's true.
But anyway, we should leave him. What do? We cannot leave the guards behind, because as soon as Walter and his men arrive, then they will be.
I doubt we'll be able to convince them to leave their post, but we can
carries.
try. We can try, and it might be helpful to us to have company on the journey, if only because
It'll keep you awake.
they'll keep us awake. All right, let's go talk to them then.
Yes. So yeah, Inga starts packing up her stuff, and then they head.
Okay.
Back to the guards.
So the guards stand there. I'm going to be coming to you in just a minute, Robar, and then I'll head over to Tani. So River? What do you say? The guards stand there.
So River just looks at them and says, "All I can do is give you the information I have, but please believe that we were sent down on a mission from Bjorn to find an escaped outlaw named Oderic."
Don't we have a letter?
Oh, do we do?
I
Do we have a
think
letter?
There was some. Let me check my inventory. Wait.
Okay. Anyways, we found Oderic in this camp, having been more or less taken hostage by Walter, and he is forcing Oderic to lead this party to Bjorn. We managed to communicate with him enough to get him to take them by a slightly alternate route to the Gloomy Fold, where we want them to be ambushed if we can get a message to Bjorn in time.
I do
think
have a
that
letter.
Okay.
But I don't. I just wrote down folded letter. I have no idea what
Okay.
this letter was about. I'm so sorry.
All right. Well,
Archie,
if
you
it
know
has
anything?
if it has Bjorn's stamp. Then
Yeah, I'm pretty sure though that Bjorn didn't give you a folded letter to use as like a bearing, tidings, that type of thing. I don't think so. This might have been related actually to the letter that you found with Robar when you were up with him. Remember that letter that was on the desk?
Oh yeah, that was that letter.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's what you're talking about.
Oh, okay. We wrote that letter, didn't we?
Yeah,
Like,
you could be happy to show them the folded letter and be like, hey, apropos of nothing.
Anyway, so River just looks like deadly serious and says, I don't think you will survive an encounter with these men. As fierce and courageous as you and your people are, I think that it would be better for you and for your people to come with us now to Bjorn and to travel together in order to warn him as quickly as possible. But I can't convince you. I can only give you this information. We have to be on our way.
And the two nod and say, we appreciate your concern, stranger, but whether or not we die is not relevant. What matters is whether we protect our homeland, and there will be a few of them that we'll take with us in the process. Our post is here. Your post is to warn them. And you could see these are like, there's a resolve in their faces about this.
River exhales very deeply and says, if you... She just looks around as if there's some magical fortification that could take place in order to help them, and just says, all right, I wish I could stand with you, but the only way that we can help protect you is by moving as quickly as possible. Thank you. Goodbye.
If I may, you will die if you stay here. I'm just saying that because there are, how many men were there? Like
50.
60.
Or 50 to 60.
Yeah.
I'm just assuming 60.
You will not be able to hold this bridge.
And they say, we can at the very least slow them down. We cannot abandon this bridge. It would be too easy for them to cross it. At least we can make things more difficult for them. We appreciate your concern, but go, stout dwarf. Warn our people. We will do what we can to be worthy of them.
River just looks to... if you see a ranger before, please tell Robar of the Dunedain that we have pressed on. And let me look at the map for a second. There aren't really any... We're just making straight for Bjorn's house.
I assume.
Yeah.
Pretty much along that dotted line, as it were.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So please just tell him that we have
made straight
for there. All right.
All right, and they nod and they say, all speed be with you. And they turn back to look, and that means you're going to cross over, so you can move your character, Amal, and send River and Stone sort of alongside Inga there. And, so you guys set off to the north. Now, this conversation and the sort of interaction and stuff actually allows Robar to close a little bit on you, so probably he's only about a half hour behind you. So about a half hour later, I would say, Robar, you find yourself coming up to the old ford, and I need you to make a Constitution saving throw when you get up to right about there. You can
He's
see
like
that
completely drenched in water and like seaweed all over him, and like branches out of his hair. Yeah.
Exactly.
Perception check,
Yeah. No Constitution saving.
Sorry, I keep getting this wrong, don't I? 20 on Constitution.
Okay, so you're maybe the water was bracing or something, or you're too exhausted to know the difference. Go ahead and move your token right here. You don't need to make a perception check because you can see that there are two Bjornings standing in the front of the bridge. As you close on them, one of them raises a hand and says, "Halt! Is your name Robar Staunton? Are you of the Dunedain?"
Who's asking?
And he says,
yes.
He says, we were told to wait for you. We were told that you would come. Your friends have gone ahead of you. They have told us of the attack, and they have told us that it pursues ever on the distance. And as they sort of look, they can actually see.
Behind me.
I was going to say, they can see behind you. These guys actually have closed farther on. You can now clearly hear some shouts and yells. They're clearly not trying to be stealthy as they move along. And you can see the flickering of the fires much closer now. And they say, your friends were here, perhaps only half a turn of the clock since. If you were to hurry, you might be able to still catch them, but they have gone on to warn Bjorn. We will do what we can to hold this bridge as long as we can. Now, Robar, you look at them, you see they're pretty...
For a second, I'm like, these guys are serious?
Right, exactly. I was going to say, like, they look like, good, sturdy Bjornings, but, I mean,
Yeah. You guys want to die?
And they say, we wish to represent honor, and we will do so by holding this as long as we can.
All right, then. I run off.
And I'm done.
All right.
It occurs to me it would make more sense if, it doesn't matter. Just that, if the Stonyford crew were actually going up to the ford to hold them off there, that might make more sense. But,
well, we will see what happens when actually that all comes to pass. So as you cross over to the other side, Robar, so maybe just put yourself right here, just like right south. You can now make a perception check for me once you're on that side of the river, and let's see if you can see where they are.
Nope.
No, you're just like focused on the bridge. You're like,
you just keep rolling natural 20s,
It really is just like bull in a china shop. Like, I'm not gonna weaken, but I'm also not gonna see where I'm going at all.
It is that thing, if you've been running for a long time and you're really tired, and you just literally are focusing on the next step, and it's like next step, next step.
That's basically it.
I think that's what Robar's in.
That's basically it. So
too many times.
I have this image. You're actually gonna just like run through them and then be like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" Like with your head down as you run right through them. Anyway, so
ugly rock. Oh, hi, Lilima. Oh.
So you were now on the eastern side. So go ahead and put yourself on the eastern side of the river, Will, just south of Inga there, and then I'm going to move to Tawny Bear and the Stonyford crew. Tawny Bear, I need you to make a perception check for me first, because you're now pretty close to Robar, very close actually.
Come on, natural one.
No.
So close. There is a one.
You are pretty sure that you see ahead of you as you close in on the old ford. You see fire, not like the on fire, but like a campfire. And you can also see what looks like motion, movement ahead near the fire. It's not clear what, but there seems to be something vanishing, perhaps some people or some person running away from the fire in the direction like to the north. They're not carrying any torches or anything like that, but they are rushing forward. And
there's 50 of them.
Yeah, I was going to say, no, there's not 50. Definitely not. And the Stonyford crew is with you. They have been going as much as they can. They are, again, they are not heroes. They are people who work the land, but they're also Bjornings, and that means they are a sturdy people who are now fighting for their own homelands, and this gives them a kind of resolve and purpose. And as you are sort of with Ava, kind of level with Ava, you find yourself closing in on the ford. One of the people, you see two solitary figures, and one of these solitary figures with a staff, as it turns out, runs towards you off the eastern side of the bridge of the ford, and comes to you and says, and holds up a hand, and Ava recognizes and says, Rennis! And Rennis says, Ava, you've heard about the bandits then? And Ava says, yes, from him right here. And she points back to Tawny Bear and Rennis, who you do know a little bit, Tawny. Rennis says, Tawny Bear, it is good to see you still standing on your feet. More or less, I see. Because you can see that you're kind of like...
Got 8-piece Samsonite luggage set, hanging out.
Yeah, exactly.
Side of the eyes. Yeah.
And he's like, and he says, unfortunately, your run may have been for naught. We think that the bandits of which you speak are perhaps only a half hour to the south now. Your friends have already passed over. They are ahead of you, and if you continue, you may catch them. First, the dwarf and the woodsman, then the Dunedain, and last yourselves.
So Tawny will turn to Ava and...
By the time we could get to the fold, they would have caught all of us in the back, unless we back up. Let these two sacrifice themselves and let the bandits pass on. Or you, the people of Stonyford, make your stand here.
And Ava looks at the two men, the two Bjornings, and looks at you, and she says, "We would stand and fight rather than run, and we'll be exhausted by the time we reach Gloomyfold. If you think that this is a place to hold the bridge, then we will hold it for as long as we can. Perhaps by some miracle some of us may survive it."
You have archers.
You do have a couple of, like, archers is a little generous, but as best as they can get. Okay. So she shouts orders to a couple of her men. They come forward, holding these bows that look like they made them themselves very clearly. I mean, like, recently.
Father and son bow will still kick ass.
That's right. Yeah. And they don't have to do it from long distances either. And she says, where, tell us where to place them.
And so he'll point, like, how many are there?
There's 2. There's
Okay.
only about 10 or 12 that came with you, so.
So, in the reeds on either south side of the bridge.
Yeah. Okay. They can do that and actually be concealed almost completely.
That's why.
Yeah. Okay.
And then they can pick people off as they come to the far side of the bridge.
Okay.
And the bridge itself is a natural choke point, but they will have archers as well. So make sure that your people keep an eye on those. When
And
an arrow is let loose, it has a very particular direction. It tends to go to one place. And so if you can see it coming, just step to the right by a foot. It won't hit you. Keep your heads up.
and the archers nod nervously, and they go down to take up positions in the reeds. And then that leaves roughly about 9 or 10 people that are left over. Like maybe 3 or 4 of them with swords, a few with pitchforks, 1 or 2 with a stout staff among your group.
Those of you with reach who can poke between the people standing in front, try to form lines if you can. Keep the advancing force back so that the people with the swords in front have an easier shot at stopping them. And if that does not, if your staves and pitchforks break and your sword should blunt, you use your teeth. You do whatever you have to do to take these people down, because they will not hesitate to do the same to you.
And the men and women waiting for, listening to you, listen intently and then nod, and they all take up positions at the end of the bridge. The 2 Bjornings are in front. One of the Bjornings pushes through the group of people and says to you quietly, just to you and Ava, "I appreciate what these people are trying to do, Tani, but these are not warriors. Do they really understand what's likely to happen here?"
They will defend their home or fall trying.
And the one sort of nods grimly and says, "That is, I suppose, a better way to go." And says, "What of you?" to you, Tani.
We have to make for north. Catching them in the fold is our best chance.
"Very well. Then take who you will." And Ava looks to you and says, I should probably be with my people. Will you continue after your friends?"
I feel I have to.
And she nods and she says, puts a hand on your shoulder. She says, "Tani, whatever happens, I want to thank you. Stonyford may not have been worth much under my leadership, but the character of the people are the only thing that ever made it matter. Thank you and your friends for reminding us of that character."
One thing to remember, not to diminish what you just said, but remember that Odoric is with them, and that he is leading them into a trap. He is on our side.
And she nods. She says, "The battle is sometimes difficult to see, but we will do what we can to keep it in our mind. Swift speed to you, my friend.
To us all.
And with that, she nods and goes with the others, positioning. You can now hear, again, the shouts are not like, we're coming to get you, but just an occasional shout in the distance. And you also hear from the distance, as you can see these fires, you hear this kind of trump, 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 like not exactly marching, but it seems more like just many, many booted feet that are moving at relatively great speed. It is pretty great speed. Like they're not at a full run, basically, but they're definitely in a jog, basically.
Right.
As they are heading towards the ford, and so you, with one last look around, head off to the north. And I want to put. I'm just going to place tokens here for just a second.
Is there any reed mace around this place?
Do you want to take a minute to look?
Yeah.
Sure. Go ahead and make an investigation check for me. I didn't do the check last time because it was dark and because all this stuff happening in the village.
No.
You're like, reed mace. Why would there be reed mace?
We're going to find it. We're going to
grab
find
hold
it,
of something and pull, and it's an arrow. Oh, sorry.
We're going to find it like in Bjorn's garden. All right.
Exactly.
Bjorn's house. And
This is what I was looking
with reed mace.
Right, he's like, you just face plant into an entire garden of reed mace, like just like, and then that wakes you up, and you're like, God damn it. Okay, so right. Also, when's the last time I had you make a Constitution saving throw, Tani?
I can't see one, so.
Okay, so then let's have you make one because I think it was before this. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There was the sight of as you are running into the sort of north out of the firelight, and you look back over, you see the people of Stonyford standing lined up behind the two Bjornings with their staves. You see the pitchforks in front. You see the people as you head in. Sorry, you put the pitchforks in back. You see the pitchforks in back. You see the people with swords in front, standing as you had directed them. Somewhere, in the reeds below the bridge are the two archers. No one there is crying out. None is crying. None is standing with their heads down. They have their eyes front and resolute. And there is a moment where you have a sense of pride of people that have, for their whole lives, stood up to what was thrown at them and continued to stand nonetheless, as will happen yet again upon this bridge in only a few short minutes. And so you continue forward. Now I want to jump forward to River and Inga, who, for sake of my brain, I'm going to put up relatively equal levels so I know where these people are. You guys are, of course, hurrying north to the house. It is now probably about 3 or 4 in the morning, I guess I would say, because it's very, very early in the morning and dark. And as you're going, I want both of the two of you, please, to make perception checks for me.
Sure.
Should I do stone as well?
18.
Sure, you can do stone as well, yes.
That's for me.
22, okay.
Stone.
Wow. You guys are all like, I perceive so many things. You all hear the sound of rapidly closing footsteps from behind you. Could be possibly just one person as you run along. Someone is going quickly.
Okay.
How far away?
A couple of minutes, maybe.
Okay.
Pretty close.
Okay.
River's gonna turn and draw her axes.
No. Can we hide somewhere? Are there bushes around or something? Or
Not a
something
lot.
that
I mean,
we're hiding
there are sort of tall grasses here and there, but there's not this area is fairly open. There's not a lot of stuff around there. You could try to sink down, but
Yeah, well, we have a horse with us.
yeah, I was gonna say you could just take Lilimon, lie him on his side. I'm sure that'll be fine for the horse.
Yeah, River just pivots on her heel, turns around, draws her axes, and
Sting. Okay, right. All right, Inga also holding her axe. Robar, go ahead and make a perception check for me, please.
Here it comes.
Clothesline.
We're ready. With disadvantage, it's a 9.
Right, outstanding. So You are rather, you're continue to move forward. You are starting to, you're like, they can't be that far ahead of me. And suddenly you come over a hill and literally run within several feet before stopping of the river and Inga with axes. And they actually have their axes drawn back. And you sort of like, like as you come across them as you're crossing over the hill.
Oh, okay. So Inga drops her axe and hugs him. Robar, oh my God.
Robar looks
so
like an
you're
absolute
fine.
mess. Like,
Oh, you guys are here. It's you.
River resheaths her axes and lets them have their hug.
Yeah. He's like dripping in sweat and seaweed and branches and stuff.
You are
Oh, it's you.
disgusting.
Yeah, I had a little. It was fine. Anyway.
Did you see Tawny?
No. No. I thought I saw him for a while ago. It was just a bear.
I can see how that mistake
I ended up following him through a woods for a bit. I thought it was him.
it was just a voice actor. It wasn't the same guy at all.
Anyway. Yeah. Got some
River-
honey though on the way, so
Oh, really?
he just like starts sucking on his fingers.
Yeah, River.
Yeah.
River just
Look, it's a bear with honey in it. Ha 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 ha.
oh, honey bear. River just kind of grins and says, it's good to see you, Robar. We have to keep going.
Yes.
Likewise. Okay. Are we close?
Some
we
hours,
close?
some hours still.
Hours yet. I think we might be able to make it there by early morning. If we
Inga
stop.
hands
Okay.
Robar some dried meat or something. So yeah,
Okay.
Nah.
boy, eat.
Just
Okay.
stick it in his hair.
Delicious jerky. Right.
Saving it for later. Yeah. Did you? How far behind you were the bandits? Did you see?
They were half an hour, maybe
All right.
less. I think those two there are gonna hold them up for a minute or two.
30 seconds.
Well, then let's
Couple of
not
seconds.
tarry. Let's just keep going then.
All right, let's go.
Okay. Tawny, as you are north of the, as you are now north of the old ford, I would like you also to make a perception check for me, please.
Okay.
Okay. So you think you see, as you are running along in the distance, in the distance you think you see, the 3 or 4, it's not quite clear, figures. Now again, part of this is that now as we're getting on the dark, I was about to say, if you've ever been up at this time, and of course I realized I was talking to Trendane, so you will remember that there is a time in the morning where it's still dark, but the darkness itself lightens, not from any obvious light, but there's not the deep dark of 1 or 2 in the morning, right? And that's what you see. There's kind of a gradual lightening of the darkness in a way. And of course, your eyes are adjusted to it, having been running through it this whole time. And so you actually can see ahead of you a set of maybe 4 or 5, it's not clear, creatures. You can also begin to hear their sounds. Now, you're not really closing on them, but you can hear them in the distance. So you could try to run faster, although I don't really know how, or you could just be aware that they are running ahead of you, but it does not sound like a large group.
And they are moving in the same direction.
Same direction.
Okay.
So-
I'm not going to risk trying to speed up.
Okay.
Just keep chugging along.
Okay. All right.
Knowing that it's probably them, given what the guards at the thing said.
Yeah. That could quite well be the case. All right. Got this one. Okay, good. All right. After about another, I would say, 4 or 5 hours, you find yourself coming close to Bjorn's house. You can tell this because the fields now, which were wild, are becoming more tilled and better maintained. I mean, they're all relatively maintained around here, but even more so. You begin to see these huge hives. There's no bees out because it's still in the early morning, but you can see these huge hives, these wooden boxes which have been built up around you as you go. As you cross over the last hill and look down, you can actually see the tall hedge which basically surrounds Bjorn's house, and then of course the front gate to it as well. I need the three of you, Robar, Inga, and River, to make Constitution saving throws for me, as you were there.
Oh, no.
Wow.
Well,
Unreal. Okay. Yeah, both River and Robar. Fortunately for you, Robar, there's only so tired you can be at one time. But you both, as you sort of come across it, this has essentially been a march which would have taken several days that you've been able to reduce to like a day and a half at great personal cost. And so each of you take another level of exhaustion. Now, I want to double check on this here.
can I just point out that I have no exhaustion?
I know it. I know it. It's good to be a dwarf sometimes, I guess. I'm
Well,
telling
she
you.
also got a nap, right?
That's true. You got a nap too. I want to double check here. So Tani has got 1 level at last check. 2 now? Oh, that's right. 2. 2 levels of exhaustion. Robar, what are you at?
2 levels of exhaustion.
Okay.
Oh,
and-
Inge probably helped them carry some of their stuff, after seeing them being almost dead, basically. So.
Okay. That's fair. And then only I know I'm sure it's good to be a dwarf all the time. Of course, classic glory. Of course. I don't know what I was thinking. Let's see. 2 levels. Let's see. River, what are you at for
2
exhaustion? Also 2. All right. Now, I want to remind everybody quickly about headphone cords that aren't long enough. No, I want to remind everybody about the effect that exhaustion has at that level. Yeah, it's in. I had it just a second ago. Give me a second. Okay. 5, 2, right, good. Here we go. When you were dealing with exhaustion, at 2 levels, there are the following sort of effects. First of all, you now have disadvantage on ability checks. So please just remember that. You have disadvantage on ability checks. Not saves, but ability checks. Secondly, your speed is now halved because you can only move so fast. Now, the problem is when you start getting into the 3rd level, because the 3rd level is disadvantage on attack rolls and saving throws. Level 4 is your hit point maximum is halved. 5 is your speed is reduced to 0. 6 is death. So let's not get that far.
No.
Right now you're at 2.
But
So basically you're dealing with all of these things. Now the only real way to address these exhaustion is going to be a long rest, and as all of you know, that's not happening for a little while. You gotta get past this right now. But this is exactly what it's like to go through what you folks have. So. That said, you are now staring down. What's up, Chaotix? And hey, what's up, Thunderhawk? This is looking down upon this hedge maze, so you can see your goal in front of you. And now I would like all 3 of you to make a perception check for me as you are stopped, kind of looking down, breathing heavily. Except for Inga, who's just like, let's do a jig, you know.
Time to party!
So we're looking down at Bjorn's house?
Yes. The hedge maze. Looking down is a relative term. It's not like a big mountain, but
No. River goes, maybe if we rolled down it, we could get there.
I don't know.
so Robar jumps and goes, as you wish.
He just ragdolls down the field.
Yeah, so
River
perception check for me.
Oh, are we doing perception
Yes,
checks?
perception I would
Oh,
like
okay.
from everybody, please.
Sorry.
Not performance, Robar,
No,
although
I
I'm
keep
sure you
going
can do that
on.
very well.
Just to check, how do we know that we're doing them at disadvantage? Does it just you just always take the lower
Take
one?
the lower one, yep.
Okay.
Okay, so we got an 11. We got a 7.
7.
Yeah. Okay. How about Inga?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I was focusing on the chat. I'm sorry. Perception, right?
Yes.
Oh, 10?
So you have the 10. Actually, both Robar and Inga, you hear heavy footsteps behind you, like doof, 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 running, coming pretty quickly from behind you.
I look behind.
Okay. In the distance, you see a large figure, probably a Bjorning, clambering up the slope towards where you're positioned.
You want to call out to him? It is a Bjorning.
Somebody call out again.
There's a guy over there.
Anybody?
Ah!
Inga goes to check. That is.
Okay. It's almost, as you look, you can see the very, very exhausted figure of Tawny Bear, who's stumbling up the slope.
Has
Oh,
Tony
just
Bear
you.
outpaced Rennis or whatever his name was?
You don't know. You have not seen.
We don't know. We haven't seen him at
You
all.
haven't seen. I think it was Stennis actually. Steris. Sorry. Yeah.
Harris?
Rennis was the guard.
If he's made it to Bjorn already, that would be amazing. But
Right. You
anyway,
can't tell yet.
We can't tell yet.
Was Dennis?
He
That
was.
is one of the guards at the fort.
Yeah.
No,
one of the-
Rennis
no,
was Rennis was the guard at the ford.
Right.
Steris was the fast runner that Tawny sent ahead, or
Right.
tried to send ahead.
So Tony is pulling up to them.
Yep.
Yes.
Pulling up to them right now, sort of stumbling up the slope. So you and Tawny, you see the three of them looking down at you. They all kind of look pretty tired too, except for Ingo seems okay. Stone comes running down, although tired, kind of, tiredly licks your ankle. Lillimon kind of, doesn't gallop, but he kind of walks down a few steps and nuzzles you as you come up to him.
Does that
Yeah.
horse thing. Hey, how's it going? Hey.
Hey.
River sees Tawny and just also goes and gives him a huge hug that is only partly a collapse, but but is clearly extremely, extremely relieved to see him.
And as Tawny is running with his staff, and he's barely paying attention. He's just focused on Beorn's house and is trying to run with the thing, and she hits in the side. He's like, no, and just pushes her on.
Oh, it's tiny there.
If I stop, I won't make it. And
So
We're
he just
here,
goes
we're
up
here,
over the
we're
slope
here.
as you try to hug him, and he
Yeah.
goes down the other side. It's like,
Hey guys, that was Tawny Bear. He's here.
are you
Alright.
guys following him down?
Yes, we're all
Okay.
going to Bjorn's house.
So you
Like,
all.
Inga's just like
Yeah, what
staring
the
at
hell was that about?
everybody, like-
You all stumble down, stumble down the hill. And as you get to the front gate, the gate is flung wide. And striding out, you see the great form of Bjorn himself. And he marches out of the doors, seeing you. There are a set of horses behind him, at least 4 of them. And behind those, you see a whole set of at least probably 20 or 30 maybe Bjornings that are with him. And next to him, you can kind of see the rather exhausted form of someone which only Tawny recognizes as Steris, who indeed made the good time that you had thought. He looks like he's barely holding it together, though. He looks real tired.
you know how he
And and Bjorn comes forward and he says,
is.
"I've heard already from Steris about your news." And
He face plants.
yep, and he sort of drops to one knee and puts his hand on your shoulder. And now remember, you're 6'3", big guy. He almost lifts you up. Like that's like without any help from you. Obviously, you're just exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, "Tawny," and he puts you more or less on your knees, kind of. And he says, he looks to all of you and he says, "My friends, I've heard already. These outlaws are a danger to me and my folk. We will drive them from Wilderland. Are you tired?" He says to all of you, clearly knowing the answer.
Not really.
River,
I'm good.
well, we could fight.
Tawny's head just sort of.
He says,
I had a nap a few hours ago. I'm good.
And he looks back. He's like, "Yes."
and he says, "Good. If you're tired, it will be so much the sweeter when you've rested after destroying these interlopers. They will not survive." And he holds forth a pouch, and drawing it forth, he pulls out, Tawny, you don't know whether to laugh or cry, a good heaping hunk of reed mace. And he's like, and it looks like it's been harvested, like, he had a bunch of it, and he says,
Called
"Tawny,"
it! Fucking called it!
he's like, "Tawny, I assume you know what this is." And he hands some to each of you, and to you, Robar, he says, "The Dunedain are familiar with it as well," and gives some to each, and then he says, "Now the question, where do we fight them? Do you know where?"
The Gloomy Folds. That's where Oderic is taking them so far as we know.
He says, "Oh, Derek." He says, "What do you mean he's taking them there?"
Oh, this is such a long story.
Never. And he holds up a hand. Never mind. Is he working for us or against us?
For us.
Fine.
For
That's all I need to know. We'll worry about him afterwards. And he turns around and he barks several orders to the horses behind him, and they, in response, and then they
all
gallop
say
off.
nay.
They all say
Nay.
nay, right? They turn around. They all look at you and they go, whinnying. No, they turn around and they gallop away at incredible speed. And Tani, you know that when this is done, this is basically him. They are used as messengers. Bjorn can often send them to, and so they gallop off. And Bjorn turns back and says, "They will gather all the rest of my people to arrive as fast as we can, but the reality is that they won't be there in time for the beginning of the battle. And moreover, if I don't gather some of these things myself, we're going to be in trouble." And so he says, "I need to ask all of you to go to Gloomy Fold. I need to gather my people, and I need to do what I can to hold them back." And he stops for a minute and he says, "Did you see my men at the ford?" He says this to all of you
Yes.
generally.
There are two of them.
Only all two of them, yes.
He says, "I suppose they stayed by the bridge."
They did.
Stonyfoot stood with them.
Tried to stop them.
And
They wouldn't go.
he shakes his head. "They would not go. They defended their land as I would expect. But the loss of more people is..." He says, "We have had too many ceremonies of grief. But there'll be time for that later. At the moment, we will drown our sadness in rage." And he sort of looks at all of you and says,
Tani looks genuinely uncomfortable.
right. He looks back at you, Tani, and he's aware, I believe, of your pacifism. I believe we talked about this before. And he looks at you and says, "Tani, you and I have a different way of looking at these things. But there are times when a man must fight, and there's times when a Bjorning must fight for his people. This is one of those times when you may need to..." And he trails off. "You understand?" And he sort of looks at you for a moment, and you could almost say Bjorn has never ever been soft, right? But you could imagine the expression in his face being slightly more gentle than you can remember. And then he turns back to you, and that expression has vanished. And he says, "I must go and do what I can to slow these people down." He says, "The rest of you will take them," and he points back to the Bjornings behind him, "and go to Gloomy Fold. You can take up positions there. If all goes well, by the time this would-be king arrives with his people, we'll have at least some response waiting for him. And assuming I can provide a reception of my own, perhaps we can damage him on both levels. I must tell you," and he says this to all four of you, "Tani is defending his homeland. None of the three of you are obligated to do the same. There will be no dishonor if you step away here, but we would welcome your help."
Tani is
Not
our
going.
friend.
I'm going where they are going.
Yeah. We're not going anywhere. We came to warn you as best we could, but my only regret is not getting here sooner. And I will stand here, and so will Stone, to try and remedy that tardiness.
You notice Stone kind of lifts his head a little bit, almost like, the proud, noble look as much as he can. And so he turns to, you already heard from Inga, he looks at you, Robar, and raises an eyebrow.
You have my sword and my bow.
And my ex.
And my axes.
And my axe is. And Bjorn nods. "Thank you." And he looks at Utani and he says, "In that case, we march. We march to war." And I think at that, we will stop the session for today as we set things up. I did not know if we were going to get all the way back, but I'm glad that we did, because I wanted to have it set up for a nice little battle as
You
we
mean
begin
you
the next
expected
time.
us to die? before we
Well,
get here?
No, but I actually did want to see what it would be like to have a session of travel where there's just the journey, and man, again, that's what it feels like. So, wonderful job as always, guys. It's such a pleasure to play this campaign, yeah, I am excited for what comes next. I will start with, as always, at the bottom of the column with Amal. And Amal, thank you so much. Wonderful work today. We will see you. Quick programming note to chat, by the way. Normally we try to do the first Tuesdays. The first 2 Tuesdays of each month, but this particular month coming up in April, we won't be doing that for a variety of reasons. And so in all likelihood, assuming every one of the players is okay with this, but I think we're looking at the 10th and the 17th probably as the dates, so the 2 middle Tuesdays. I think that'll be easier. I'll confirm it with the players, but in any case, it will not be the 3rd. So I'm just letting everybody know about that. So with that said, Amal, where will the fine folks see you until they see you back here next month?
So you can always find me on Twitter at Tithenai, which is Tithenai, and also at my website, amalilmuhtar.com, where you can also sign up for a newsletter from me, which would be good to do because I am gasping for a Twitter hiatus, which I expect to happen shortly as I knuckle down and focus on the sort of last forced march stretch of my doctoral dissertation.
Yeah, life imitating art, right? Exactly.
So that's likely to happen at some point soon. So if you want to stay up to date with things from me, sign up for my newsletter. But also, and I have said this like almost every time that we've signed off, but I am for sure very soon going to launch a drip account, which is sort of Kickstarter's answer to Patreon, which is hilarious. But anyways, it's a place where you can subscribe to me for essays, commentary, previews of upcoming work and stuff like that. I have as I mentioned at the beginning, I'm going to be one of the guests of honor at PenguinCon, which is coming up in the first week of May. But if any of you are in Montreal, I'm also going to be on a kind of panel discussion during the Blue Met Festival, it's a Montreal Literary Festival. It's happening at the end of April. So on April 29th at 4 o'clock, which is a Sunday, I'm going to be talking with three or four other fine people about Mary Shelley's legacy and kind of genre fiction in general and stuff like that. So you can find me then. And there's presumably a link on the internet somewhere. The Blue Metropolitan Festival, anyway. Anything else? Stuff, things, blah. No, that's it.
Very good stuff. Thanks, Amal, as always. I'm looking forward to next month already, and this was awesome. Thank you very much. Moving right on up the column, we have Terry. Terry,
Hi.
thank you as always. Great stuff today. Again, from Inga, who relentlessly refused to be exhausted. So at all costs.
Don't need that read, Mace.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was true, and you did call it too. So Terry, thank you so much as always. Where will the fine people see or hear from you next?
Well, probably here on this channel stuff. But other than that, I will be attending the Comic Convention in Aachen here in Germany next month on the weekend of the 14th to 15th. And I know, like, most of you are not even remotely close to that, but if you are, it would be cool if you could step by and say hi. You will be able to find me at the Toons Up booth with my friends. So yeah, that will be a lot of fun.
Good stuff. That is awesome. And there's at least a few. I mean, classic or chaotics. There's a few Germans.
Well, I mean, like
whatever. You're in Europe.
It's like way like in South Europe. Like he could come to the Comic Salon Erlangen, I suppose, which is end of May, start of June.
My image of Europe always is that people just wherever they are in Europe jump on a train and they get to anywhere in Europe in 2 hours. It's a ridiculous vision that's completely unmoored from reality, but that's my image. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Europe is like the size of New York City.
Sure,
right?
of course, right? I mean, like, naturally, of course. Yes, but thank you, Terry, so much.
Well, I mean, I've been to the Netherlands like twice in the past few months, just to go on concerts. So yeah. That's the thing.
How long does it take? Actually, how long is a train ride from where you are to the Netherlands?
1 hour. Like I live really close to the border.
Called
I have
it.
to say.
No, just
like
saying.
I live really close.
No,
to the border.
that's fine. I get it. I'm just saying.
I mean, it's closer for me to go to Amsterdam, like the next country's capital town, than rather to Berlin, which is my.
Oh, interesting.
Like
okay.
it takes like a 6-hour train ride to Berlin.
Right.
I
Any
sadly
Dale
have to run, guys, so I'm just gonna sign off.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Amel.
Bye, Amel.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye.
See you soon. Yeah, so thank you, Terry, so much. Oh no, the windows.
I was gonna say, and bang go the cameras.
Oh man. All right. Well, I'll see what I can do about dealing with that. In the meantime, we will talk to Robar, by which I mean, of course, Will. Good stuff today, Will. Despite some of the continuing issues with saving throws and the like. Where will the fine people see you next, sir?
Yeah, no, I had a great time today, even though Robar continues to be completely terrible at everything he does, which I find hilarious, so I greatly enjoy it. You find me on Twitch and Twitter and everywhere like that, under Encounter Roleplay. Next live stream I'll be doing is Wednesday, so tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern, I'll be doing Call of Cthulhu, so that's where you can find me next. But in the meantime, I'll be hanging out on Twitter. If you want to go follow me there, I'm at EncounterRP, but yeah, I had a great time. I'm looking forward to the next session.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool. I'm really happy with how all this is going. There's gonna be a battle. There's gonna be stuff to deal with Odoric. Just good stuff. Anyway, good stuff as always. Thank you, man. Always a pleasure to have you back here. And definitely, you guys should check out what Will does, because Will really has a really great channel that does a lot of really awesome stuff, both on and offline, podcasts and all this stuff. So he's one of the hardest working men in show business, as I always say. So really good stuff. Thank you, sir, as always. Last but certainly not least, of course, we have Trendane. Trend, great stuff today with Tani. I think you really nailed the feel of an exhausted guy going through all of his exhausted self and all that, and still managed to catch up with them just before Bjorn's house anyway, despite, being sucked down with the river and all that kind of stuff. So where will the fine people see you next?
I have longer legs than you.
Right. I did take that into account.
Where will it find me? Thursday over on Not So Speedruns. We'll be continuing the City of Mist campaign, which is sort of becoming like this one, in that we've got this massive emotional outburst about to show up, and with us the last one was this huge emotion. I mean, in that game, my character's he's this close to saying, "I'm out, bye," and just leaving the party altogether.
Yeah.
Not that he hates the characters. That anyway.
The problem is not with the players. It's
oh
with
no,
yeah.
Oh god, no! The other players are fantastic.
Yeah.
It's just there's some interpersonal problems with the characters. That's all.
Yep.
Little bitty ones. Anyway, so next week or next time we get together for this is going to be. Ooh, I don't know whether to look forward to it or not. I mean, I do look forward to it, but it's going to get ugly.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's good. I'm yeah.
Ugly.
Yeah, it's funny because all of them are ramping up. All the different campaigns are ramping up in different ways, you know, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. But
so that'll be Thursday. We'll do that, and then back here on Saturday, right?
Yeah. Speaking of ramping up, good God. Meanwhile, over there, dragon fight and
it's just a dragon.
Yeah, it's no big deal. And
dragon
airship.
I've never met before.
That's right. An airship and all this stuff. So there's a bunch of stuff going on down there. But really good stuff as always. Great pleasure, Trent. Thank you. You guys should be checking out his stuff. Definitely check out Beyond Skyrim, BattleTech when that comes out. As I say, I'll be talking about that probably over in GOG. And of course, various audio work that he's doing with BattleTech novels and otherwise. He is also doing the audiobook of Greyshade, which is going to come out. I'm going to have an announcement about Greyshade and those books for those who are curious. I'm going to have an announcement about that pretty soon, actually probably over the next few weeks, and so be on the lookout for what's going on with those books. So but thank you, Trent, so much. Great stuff today from Trent, from Will, from Terry, and of course from Amal. You guys are the best. Love you, and I will see all of you wonderful people at the various times that we already described.
I'm going to bed.
Bye.
But thanks, guys. Chat, let's get some love. I'll see you guys soon. Alrighty. Good stuff. All right, guys. So that actually is going to just about wrap it up for us for tonight. That was a lot of fun. I really enjoy these sessions, as I've said multiple times, because D&D is so much fun. I really dig it. I'm going to exit this game because we're not going to be playing that one, although we are going to be playing something else. And just give me a second as I get rid of these two things so I can send us over there. like that, and like that, and like that, and like that. There we go. So thank you guys all so much. Was again tons of fun. I really enjoyed it. I'm glad that you guys had fun because certainly I did as well. Oh man, that's switching from the close glasses to the far glasses. Like, oh, hello internet. Thank you, Genly. Thank you so much. It was great. I really am having fun with these guys and with all of my campaigns. So one thing I do want to mention though, before I rise up on out of here, two quick things. The first is next game, because this is the close of the vote for the Chat Chosen Game of the Month. I'm going to be playing this next Tuesday. So now is your last chance to get in a vote. Right now we have 3 games to choose from, and it's very close. Professor Layton, Toonstruck, and Where the Water Tastes Like Wine. So right now Toonstruck has got a slight lead over Professor Layton and Where the Water Tastes Like Wine. Now you have to get the vote in because I'm going to be closing up shop on this in just a moment. So please get your vote in right now in terms of what you want me to play. Please get in for your vote. No, you cannot vote in this more than once. Also, it won't let you, I don't believe. But it's interesting because depending on the crew, like if it's my evening crew, they're more likely to vote for Professor Layton. If it's my during the day crew, it's more likely to go for Toonstruck. I think Where Water Tastes Like Wine might be the odd man out, although actually, I mean, it's tied right now with Professor Layton, so I'm good with any one of these. I'm going to be playing this next week at this same time slot from 12 to 3. While you guys, excuse me, are getting in your final votes, for that, I do want to mention that, so I am going to be over at GOG with Pen and Pixels today, and I'm going to be playing D&D with GOG Storm King's Thunder with another awesome group of players, but I do want to remind everybody that that's going to be starting an hour later because of daylight savings. So it's going to be starting at 5 p.m. Eastern, which is about an hour and 40 minutes from now, roughly speaking. So definitely I will be doing it, but I'll be doing it just a little bit later, so I'm just letting you all know that I will be over there at about 5 p.m. Eastern. Because of daylight savings. Next week we go back to normal, thank God, and we go back to the typical 4 to 7 p.m. But this day we're going to be doing 5 to 8. So definitely stop by there if you want to see information about Storm King's Thunder and you want to check out some more D&D, which why wouldn't you want to do that? Because it's all good. So that's the deal with that. Hey, what's up, Dragon? So that is the deal with that. So last call, people. Last call. We got 9 votes for Toonstruck, 8 for Professor Layton, 7 for Where the Water Tastes Like Wine. This is your last chance. Well, it's your last chance for love. Yes, it's my last dance for the game of the month. Yes, so there is the link. The link is there. Get in your vote right now. Get in that vote. This is the last call. All right, here we go. Oh, the link to my D&D game. That is just twitch.tv. That's just twitch.tv/GOGcom. That is what that is. So, yeah, that's just going to be over at GOGcom. All right. So, here we go. Going once. Going twice. All right, people. Toonstruck. That is what it is. So, we are playing Toonstruck next week. So, Toonstruck will be the Chat Chosen Game of the Month, beating out Professor Layton and Where the Water Tastes Like Wine. So Toonstruck will be happening next week, so I look forward to seeing how that is. I've obviously heard of it, but I've never played it, so I look forward to seeing how it all looks. So that's going to be cool. But that's going to do it for me on my channel, folks. Again, I will be back in a little bit over an hour and a half over at GOG.com with D&D with GOG. So we're not doing a raid right now because we're going to go over and do that later on when that happens. But I want to thank everyone for being here and remind you all ways to support the stream. If you haven't done so already, please follow the channel. Please check out the Discord with !ArvCord. Please check out the YouTube with !ArvTube. Please check out the tweets, my Twitter, !ArvTweets. And please make sure to check out financially the Arv Shop, !Arv Shop. That's got Infinity and Beyond merchandise, but soon it's going to have other merchandise relating to stuff, merchandise relating to the adventures right here. And then, of course, !Arvtreon supports my Patreon, currently sitting at $5.54 right there. So that's going to be a lot of awesome times. Games for the month. It's going to be, I usually do it on a Tuesday is when I start Classic Core. So maybe the first or second week of April would be when I actually do the nominations. Not sure, but that would be my best guess. Yeah. So !Arvtreon will allow you to get over to the Patreon. Again, that's kind of the financial backbone of the channel, really makes a big difference in terms of what I'm able to do for the channel, and what we're able to do with you folks as well. And then the last thing, of course, is that sub button, which is sitting right above the window. That sub button will allow you to do this. There we go. The sub button... Sorry, let me just close that. The sub button will allow you to support the channel. We are right around 50 subs, so any support that you can give there would be much appreciated also. But I want to thank everyone who made this an awesome stream tonight. Thank you to my wonderful mods. Thank you to Chaotix, Terry Toons, and Dragon Spear. Thanks to Terry, of course, for a wonderful playing as well tonight. And thank you to my subscribers. Thank you to Chaotix, to Terry Toons. Thank you to Classic Core, to Genly, to Nonstop, and to Stump. Thank you all so much to those of you who sub or resub today. Thank you as well to the Patreon supporters, of which many of those are Chaotix and Dragon, or many of them are very generous supporters of the Patreon. So thank you so much, Stump, as well. Thank you to my viewers. Thank you to Anydal, Ashera. Thank you to Chrono Travis. What's up, Chrono Travis? Thank you to Courier20. Thank you to Deuce Caboose. Thank you to ECAG. Thank you to Electrical Skateboard, Jagtris, Carohemd. Thank you to Cool Mac, Poltergeist Zero, Scraticus, The Runt. Thank you to Sparkly Wallflower. What's up, Sparkly? Thank you to Thoronus. I'm not sure. I think I might have seen you in here, Thoronus, but if not, welcome. I hope you like what you saw and heard and will support in the various ways that I've described. Thank you to Trendane. Wonderful job today, Trendane. Thank you so much to you, Christensen, to Uncle Elias, to Wolfstrike, and to Cheetah. Thank you all so much for all your support. You guys are to awesome, as I've said many times. But that's going to do it for me. I'll be back on in about an hour and a half, as I say, over at GOG. And then I'll be back at you on my channel on Friday. Remember, this coming Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time is the next session of Esper Genesis. So if you want to see some science fiction goodness, you definitely want to stop by next Friday when the fall of the Eos Keldor continues with Cat Rambo, with Zach Clay, with Johnny Pittman, Video Store Game Cowboy, and of course with Louise Moore, Accidental Legend. So definitely check that out because that's a lot of fun too. Looking forward to that. But until I see you next, hopefully in about an hour and a half from now, thanks everybody for watching. Really fun session today. Can't wait for next month. But there's a lot of other D&D between now and then. So thanks everybody. Love you all. Best viewers on Twitch. And I'll see you all very soon. Be good to each other. Have a good day.